Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Mickelai?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner?
Here.
Trustee Chase?
Here.
Trustee Carlson?
Here.
Trustee Somerville?
Here.
Trustee Maxwell? Here. Trustee Harbaugh?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Do I hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. First item on the agenda is announcements. Kelly?
Just a reminder that Town Cleanup Day is Saturday, May 21st from 8 to noon at Riverbend Park in the parking lot. If the dumpsters fill sooner than noon, we will close earlier than noon.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, presentations, proclamation for Police Week presented by Trustee Chase.
I think we have quite a few representatives in the audience, if you want to come up. All of our representatives of our police departments throughout the valley, thank you.
Jesse.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to stand here so I can talk into the mic, okay? With all my whereases, all right? Okay. This is a proclamation proclaiming May 15th to the 21st, 2022 National Police Week. To recognize National Police Week 2022 and to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas, there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of our local law enforcement agencies, to include the Mesa County Sheriff's Office, Grand Junction Police Department, the Palisade Police Department, the Fruita Police Department, Colburn's Marshal's Office, DeBeck Marshal's Office, and the Colorado State Patrol. And whereas approximately 58,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported on average each year, resulting in more than 17,000 injuries. And whereas, since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 22,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty, including 5 from our local law enforcement agencies. Mesa County Sheriff Deputy Edward Innes was killed on September 27th, 1906, during an inmate jail escape. Colorado State Patrol Sergeant Wesley Rosette was killed in a crash on January 31st, 1951. Fruita Police Department Acting Chief Dan Daly was killed in a motorcycle crash in June of 2001, and Deputy Derek Gear of the Mesa County Sheriff's Office died after being shot by an armed suspect in February of 2016. Most recently, Sergeant Wayne Weiler lost his battle to COVID-19 in December of 2021. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas 472 officers were killed in the line of duty in 2021, 9 of whom were fallen Colorado heroes: Officer Gordon Beasley of the Arvada Police Department, Sergeant Eric Shear of Aurora Police Department, Aurora Police Department, Officer Eric Talley of the Boulder Police Department, Deputy Sheriff James Herrera of the Denver Sheriff's Department, Deputy Sheriff Duke Trujillo of the Denver Sheriff's Department, Detective Joe Pollock of Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Sheriff Clay Zachary Livingston of the Elbert County Sheriff's Office, Officer Ty Powell of the Windsor Police Department, and Sergeant Wayne Weiler of the Mesa County Sheriff's Office. Their names will be added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial located in Washington, D.C. this year. And whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week of May 15th through May 21st, 2022 is National Police Week, now therefore be it resolved that the Palisade Board of Trustees proclaims May 15th to the 21st, 2022 as National Police Week throughout this community, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation. Dated this 10th day of May, 2022, signed by Mayor Greg Mickelai for the town of Palisades Board of Trustees.
Our next item on the agenda is proclamation of EMS Week presented by Trustee Maxwell.
I think I need Joe White. And company, please. Proclaiming May 15th through the 21st, 2022 Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services are vital public services, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine, and whereas the emergency medical service system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the Palisade Board of Trustees proclaims May 15th through the 21st, 2022 as Emergency Medical Services Week throughout this community. With the EMS Strong theme, EMS Week Rising to the Challenge, we encourage the community to observe this week, dated with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities, dated this 10th day of May, 2022.
Next item on the agenda is proclamation for Public Lands Day. So, whereas in 2016, Colorado, Troy, you want to come up? You can accept this on the behalf of this. Whereas in 2016, Colorado established the nation's first state-based Public Lands Day, and this May 21st will be the annual celebration. And whereas the Grand Valley's public lands are diverse and provide many benefits to our residents, from recreational pursuits to other multiple uses, public lands play a significant role in economic development, clean water supplies, wildlife, and whereas citizens and visitors to the town of Palisade enjoy the recreational, health, scenic, and economic benefits from nearby public lands, including the Grand Mesa, Mount Garfield, the Palisade Plunge, and the Book Cliffs, and whereas Colorado Public Lands Day recognizes the significant and positive contributions that public lands within Colorado and the Grand Valley make to our quality and way of life, this day will encourage Coloradans to celebrate our public lands that support the vitality of our communities, and Whereas the COVID-19 crisis has highlighted the importance of nature and open spaces to Coloradans. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Palisade Board of Trustees hereby affirms the critical importance of public lands to the success and well-being of our community and adds our voice to the celebration of Colorado Public Lands Day and do hereby designate the May 21st, 2022 as Colorado Public Lands Day throughout this community, and urge all citizens to join activities, events, and ceremonies designed to celebrate, embracing, and connecting to surrounding public lands, dated this 10th day of May, 2022, signed for the Town of Palisade, Mayor Greg Mickelai for the Town of Palisade Board of Trustees. There you go.
Thanks for taking care of the land, Troy. Got a bunch of silly gooses on our staff.
Daisy, chain this down to Kelly, please, so she has that copy of it. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, public comment. All those who wish to speak during public comment must sign up on the sheet provided outside the boardroom doors. Please keep comments to 3 minutes or less and state your name and address. Neither the Board of Trustees nor staff will respond to comments at this time. The board may direct staff to look into specific comments to bring back as an agenda item at a future meeting. Kelly, who do we have signed up for public comment?
First one on the list this evening is John Barbier.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Barbier. Should I sit down or should I just?
Please, and can you make sure your microphone is on?
Hello. Good evening, my name is John Barbier. I live on 820 Cabernet Court in Palisade, Colorado. I've been in this community for about 20 years. I had a winery here for 18 years and a wedding event place also on G Road. I recently retired from the winery industry, but because this is my home in Palisade, I decided to stay here. I recently applied for a PUC permit with the state of Colorado to open a very small business, me and my car, to do little cooking classes and also to transport people safely from wineries to winery. It looks like we're having issues with some people opposing us. We're not going to state any names at this time. We need the support. The community is growing. We know that. We need to make sure that we keep those people safe, not driving and drinking. So we need people like us and a Palisade trolley next to me there to transport those people from wineries to bar to restaurant to wherever they need. If they've been drinking, they should not be driving, period. So I believe there's some companies here in town that are opposing our license, that they believe they can do everything themselves. Unfortunately, this is America. We have the right to have our business. And not only that, there is a big need in the community in Palisade. So I'm here to ask you a letter of support or do anything in your power to help with that matter, to help us to get a PUC permit so we can transport those people safely in the town of Palisade. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, is there anyone else?
Next on the list is Rhonda Hummel.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Rhonda Hummel. My address is 598 Preserve Lane, Grand Junction, 81507. Tonight I'm here representing the Palisade Trolley. I also own the Purple Bee here in town, and with that I get a lot of tourists in the store. One of the things they ask for is, what can we do in here? Well, I am constantly recommending the local tour guides. Give them a call, see what kind of tours they can give you, whether it's farm, whether it's peach, whether it's wine, whatever. Bachelorette parties I recommend, different things like that. But I'm getting a lot of feedback that, one, they're either not answering their phone or they're booked. Well, tourists are only in this town for a short time. They can't wait till the following Wednesday or Thursday to do a wine tour. So what we're asking for tonight is a letter of support so we can get our common carrier. We applied for it. We purchased Tammy Talent's building down on Main Street, and we also purchased a trolley. My husband has completely refurbished it back to its original historic value. With that being said, then we applied for our license. Well, a couple of the local tour industries have contested us and intervened on our application. Their justification to this is that the market is saturated and that they can handle everything that's out there and the local tourist industry. I do not think that's true. I've talked to Visit Palisade. They've said that they have over 600,000 visitors a year. I've talked to Visit Grand Junction. They have well over 1 million. And with over 160,000 residents in Mesa County, I just don't feel like the current tour guides can accommodate everybody that wants to use it. Now, I don't negate anything they've done. They've done a fabulous job, but I think there's a need for transportation and different things that other tour operators can handle. And not just for us. I think that there's plenty of room for other venues here in town. So I'd like, again, to ask you for a letter of support for our hearing coming up with the state of Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick Hummel.
Good evening. My name is Rick Hummel. I live at 598 Preserve Lane in Grand Junction. I'm here tonight to speak for the Palisade Trolley. We have applied for our common carrier authority to operate our trolley in the valley. The common carrier holders holding authority in the valley have requested that the PUC deny our application. So here we are. We are required to show a need for the trolley for our upcoming hearing. The existing common carrier authorities holders are saying that the market is saturated and there is no need for the trolley. The burden of proof is on Palisade Trolley. We have an overwhelming support from the community. We also need support from the city of Palisade. The PUC rules state the applicant shall demonstrate a public need and that the authority is in the public interest. We've been gathering support throughout the community, and after watching KJCT News and our Mayor Greg stating the obvious that I would say that we all need to see a need for better and more transportation options. We want to make Palisade a great community, and a part of this is to give people all kinds of different options as far as our transportation, whether it is vehicle, bicycle, or on foot. One way or another, we want to make Palisade an easy town to get around in. So, if you guys have any questions, or the trolley's outside, we'd love to have you see it. And I've got a lot of letters of support. I'd like to give these to you, somebody.
Wow. Kelly, next.
Next is Karina Scott.
Back here. Yes, everybody can hear me. My name's Karina Scott. I live at 937 Logan Court, Palisade, Colorado, 81526. And I'm here to chat about Highway 6 project. I also manage the Dino Mart located at 309 West 8th Street and have had a front row seat to all the proceedings going on in front of the store. It has been a really tough couple months. Our initial letter, I think we were informed of construction the day it started was the day the letter was like, I know it's dated the 24th and it was posted to the Facebook page on January 28th, but I feel like I walked into work and there was massive construction ongoing, and it's been really rough. business is way down. But as a resident, what I'm mostly concerned about is, like, they're not doing a good job, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They've done whole sections of it twice. There was a median that was too tall, so they had to rip it all out and replace it. No big deal, nobody charged us any more money, except it interrupted our store's work for a whole other extra 10 days while they did that. There's no slush fund, right? Palisade doesn't have a fund for businesses that are affected, right? We've asked the county, we asked CDOT, because it was told to us this was a CDOT project, but it's really a Town of Palisade project, but it's run by CDOT because it's on the highway, but we have control of landscaping is kind of my belief. So with that said, there's like 7-foot tall trees in front of the store that were only supposed to be 4 feet tall, and that's like a little leaguer versus an NBA player. It's a huge difference. There's some that are coming out, but overall it's been a mess. Like, the crews are not great. They're rude to the people that are the people directing traffic are rude to the parents trying to get out of Taylor. They're super frustrated because they've been sitting in traffic for 20 minutes. They come in the store and rip my head off because who else wants to hear about it, or who else are they going to talk to about it? I hear about it all day long, all day. So I know we're getting towards the end of it, and I'm so thankful, and maybe I should have come in here probably a month or two ago, before, like, really I was just at this level of frustration that I just, like, can't even barely keep my, like, thoughts together. But let's see. Business access signs is really how this started. Project started, and I ride around town, I live in town. There's these beautiful business access signs for Happy Camper and Base Camp, because we have that big, Mesa County's doing that big project on the bridge. Great, wonderful. We have no business access signs. There's none for weeks. So I start calling. I'm getting no response. I'm calling. We finally got them. Like 3 weeks into the project, they were there for 2 weeks tops, and they haven't been seen since. Meanwhile, like, my numbers are down every day. I love this town. I love that store. Is
Your
that
3
my,
minutes
like,
are up.
time limits? Perfect. I'll just come back. My next 3 minutes. Thank you.
That's the end of the list.
No Zoom?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. I will ask if there is anybody that does wish to make public comment still, they can come up and sign up with Kelly at the present moment if they want to do so. No? All right. Then we will move on to the town manager report. Janet?
Sorry. We have some great news. If I could have Chief Stanford stand up. Chief Stanford will also thank Trustee Carlson, let us know about an AG&C grant, and staff all met together. And Chief Stanford did have the project that won, and we were awarded the AG&C grant for our NOLA camera project. So this is valued at $5,000. So thank you very much to Trustee Carlson and Chief Stanford for that grant funding. More good news. We applied for another grant, and this is on Community Development Director Ryushi and Parks Director Troy Ward. And this is an award with CDPHE for $5,000 for new benches around different areas in town that we've designated. So we've already put them on order, and we'll be having some new benches for folks around town. So $5,000 there too. So thanks for the lot of extra work on top of what they're doing to ride these. So really appreciate it. Third item, not as exciting, but we just want to be transparent. You'll see in the expenditures, Earl Simon pipe cleaning. This is $15,243 over our staff's $15,000 expense approval. This is a regular maintenance we do with sewer clean out. It is higher this year, and I'm sure because of inflation and everything, so we just wanted to highlight that with the board that it's over the $15,000 mark, and if anyone has any questions on it. It usually comes in around $14,500, but we just wanted to announce that here. Now moving on, as you realize, it's spring and the watershed is melting. And so Matt Lemon, our utilities director does have some great news about Cabin Reservoir and our runoff.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. The major runoff for Cottonwood is what we use to primarily fill Cabin Reservoir. It started on May 1st, actually coming off of the top part of the mesa, flowing down for our waterfall and coming into the reservoir. It started May 1st. We started getting a full pipe on the 4th, and today when I was up there was actually the fullest that it's been, running heavy. In fact, at today's rate, we aren't even able to capture it through our 10 and our 12-inch pipe, but that's still, I think I calculated at 15,000 gallons a minute, so that's an awful lot of water. We started it on the 1st at approximately 64.3 feet. Today it was at approximately 70 feet. Today it was extremely windy up there, so I wasn't able to get a real good reading. But that means we've gained approximately 5.7 feet. I think I tried to send Brian some pictures from the watershed of what Cabin actually looks like itself. I'm not sure. I can see my coworkers working on it. Yeah, so those are the pipes, and even it's in that picture that Brian's showing now, they aren't actually full, but that's because they start running down. Hydraulically, they're running downhill, so they pick up speed, and the pipe just gets where it's not full. And there's another picture, Brian. That's actually the intake itself right there. It's got the cement structure. It gives you an idea how much water is actually flowing through there. Sure. I don't remember exactly which one the video was. I think it's the intake itself actually running. So today is the first day that we've actually maxed out our intake, meaning there's the cement structure here in the creek that's actually catching it and put it into some pipes into more like a settling area. That settling area, this is the first day that it's actually been maxed out. So we've been really efficient. It's been running off slow, and we've been able to use it very efficiently, like I said. Going back to the other side of our intake, the Rapid Creek side, it's where the Rapid Creek line and the 960, those have been flowing, and they definitely send the primary water to town to be treated, our spring water, and we've been able to kick water into Cabin Reservoir for about 3.5 weeks, quite a bit. So there's always a little trickle goes in there, but as it melts on that side, you know, the topography and things like that up there, it melts out quite a bit faster and earlier, and so we bring a lot of that water to town directly, and then we have been kicking in, I can tell you the measurement on the gauge is 1.3. I think that's approximately 600 gallons a minute. So it's not nearly what Cabin is or what Cottonwood is, but it's still significant, and I would like to think by the end of the week Cabin will be full, assuming we keep having this nice, smooth runoff. Is there any questions that I might be able to answer? I've been able to spend a lot of time in the watershed as well, just looking at all the minor springs. We have the actual intakes in the mountains, the improved ones, the unimproved, and really got my eyes on a lot of different intakes this year. And it's very refreshing to actually get up there and see a volume of water percolating out of the ground rather than just just barely anything trickling out. This is the first year that I've been the utilities director that we've seen this volume. And so I've been able to kind of evaluate different pipe sizes and intakes and, come up with some pretty valid improvements. So I look forward to that.
No, you go first.
So I got two things. First of all, the first one's more of a comment, the second one's a question. Now would be a really good time, since we're a new board and we're heading into summer, to put together a visit.
The tour.
We could never get done because of COVID and all these other things, so just planting that seed. Two, the Denver Post today had an article about, on the Front Range, rapid melting has been detrimental to their watersheds. Have we experienced that with our watershed?
Not as much as other utilities, because ours is kind of buried up in the trees and on the side there. But, the last couple of days with this strong wind and all the dust we've had in the air, I'm sure it's accelerating on top. But for the most part, it does not affect us as much as others. And also, even though it is 23 square miles of watershed, it's not nearly as big as a lot of those big watersheds on the eastern slope.
Matt, you mentioned that, what did you say, we're at 70 feet?
Yeah, we're just right at 70 feet.
Okay, can you remind us, me
75.
primarily, what's our max on Cabin?
75.
75.
And we've been gaining about a foot a day the last week.
So we might actually max out.
I would really like to see we're maxed out. There's a lot of things I'd like to be able to learn. If valves that are sitting there that if they say you open this one, the water goes there. Well, obviously, I haven't had the opportunity to divert the water to those other holding, the other 3 reservoirs we have up there.
Uh-huh.
So this might be the year we get to
Play
put some
with
water
those.
in some of those secondary reservoirs.
I did notice in the paper here the other day that I think the Sentinel mentioned that we were actually at 109%.
There was a range and it was odd. It was
Yeah,
like
and
70 to 109%. It's like, oh, that's specific.
Yeah. Snowpack.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was actually good news too for us. I mean, other places within the state are like at around 60 or 70 and we're above. So that was good news for us, which is good for our water. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Greg and Janet.
Janet, next.
Palisade Bluegrass is coming very quickly. So Troy has a few updates.
Currently, this morning, we're at approximately 1,730 tickets sold. So we're trending very nicely with our ticket sales. We still have a month before the festival kicks off. There's always late purchases and then day of event purchases. So just meeting with our marketing folks and our talent acquisition group, everyone feels very confident that we're sitting in a real good spot. We still are needing volunteers. As of today, we're at about 69% of our total amount of volunteers that we can accept. So if anyone is still interested in volunteering for Bluegrass, please visit the website, palisademusic.com. There's a link there for volunteers. There's various shifts and positions. 2 4-hour shifts, 8 hours total will get you a t-shirt and a 3-day pass. So it is worth it.
Sorry, can you
Highly
give me that
recommend
website
it.
one more time?
Sorry, what was that?
Can you repeat that website for me one more time?
It's palisademusic.com.
Thank you.
Have we been putting that out on Facebook?
Yep, iHeartRadio, various other places, and we're going to also do another volunteer campaign as well through iHeartMusic. So hopefully we'll gather and garner some more.
Can we blast that on the town Facebook page?
That's what.
Thank you.
And then at our last meeting, the board requested CUP updates that you've approved. So Brian has put together a list for you.
Thank you, Janet, and members of the board. As was noted, there was a request for an update on the status of conditional use permits that have been granted since the start of my tenure. I started at the end of January of 2021. A little bit of background on conditional use permits. It's basically a use that otherwise would not be allowed in the zone except going through the process of the hearings and the appearance before both the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees, with the ability to put conditions on that use to make it fit with all the other uses in that zone. And so it is an important piece of our land use code. Looking into the code, the timeline we have for conditional uses is actually a 3-year window. So according to section 407I, once a conditional use permit's approved, and it is approved by the board, they have a window now of 3 years to basically get that use underway. There are a couple of ways they can do that. Some uses don't require buildings per se. One example is the Colorado Vintners Collective on the west end of town, where they requested to be able to park RVs on the property on a rotating basis. That conditional use was approved and they were able to begin doing that activity immediately. Once the activity and or the building is constructed for that activity, then the conditional use is permanent. It runs with the land unless it happens to be abandoned for some reason for a period of 12 months. So again, in the case of the collective, if they decided not to be a part of that Harvest Host program for an entire year, they would have to come back and ask for permission again if they wanted to do that, unless the code had changed for some reason. I think the big one that a lot of people are interested in is 2 conditional uses that were approved on Wine Valley Road, neither of which have started construction yet, but were both approved in relatively the same time frame for a Subway restaurant and the Happy Camper dispensary. Have been working with Happy Camper specifically on the design of Wine Valley Road and finalizing the design of their site. I'm happy to say that they are ready to go on their site. We've got a little bit of work yet to do before we release construction drawings for the road itself. But both of those projects, because they're kind of working hand in hand, are going to be underway. And so there's a number of other ones that I listed. If anyone had any specific questions about a specific use, I'd be happy to answer them. But this is the complete update of both conditional uses as well as variances, which is a whole different category of things, but also one that the board has looked at. A variance, for the benefit of the public, is basically a modification to a physical dimensional standard. So the height of a fence, for instance, there was a variance granted for that. The gentleman built the fence, and therefore the variance is complete. The other one I think that the board was curious about was the potential wine museum on 3rd Street. So they did request a variance that was approved in August. At this time, there has not been a final site plan submitted to my office, not related to the variance, but related to a different activity for that property. There was a vacation of right-of-way to be able to make that project work. And within that ordinance, there is a timeline that puts them out until June. So that's coming up quick. I know time moves fairly quickly, it seems like. But anyway, be happy to provide any additional information that the board needs now or in the future as to how these planning projects are going.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Quick question. In the case of the variances then, so there's no like sunset that like there is in the CUPs?
Correct.
So if they don't exercise the variance, is it the same kind of rule? And I'm not talking about the wine, the court museum. I'm not,
Right.
I mean, I'm just like, if somebody doesn't do the fence, or if they, didn't, is that still carried with the property, the right to do that, or how does that work?
The answer is mostly no. There's nothing specific in the code about a timeline for a variance. The assumption is that you get a variance and it's a dimensional standard. You complete the project, and obviously that house is 5 feet rather than 6 feet from the property line or what have you. Realistically, if someone doesn't follow through with a fence, there's probably a reason behind it, whether they sell the property, and no, it does not. The variance does run with the land once it's exercised. So whoever buys that property with that extra tall fence can obviously keep the extra tall fence. If they sell the property and don't build the fence, that does not guarantee the next person, because they might have a different vision for the property. So I hope that.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay. Janet, are we gonna have a Highway 6 completion update that's in the list?
We are so exciting. I've been married to this project since 2018. And the town actually has plans from 2013 doing something similar with this Highway 6 project. So great news, we do have our final walkthrough on Thursday. So what that entails is our engineers, CDOT engineers, United, the construction companies, we do a final walkthrough on Thursday and do any kind of checklist that needs to be fixed, completed. The landscape company is hoping to be done Friday. It might move into Monday, Tuesday to complete the landscaping project. So the Highway 6 phase of the project, it will be complete hopefully with Tuesday. You'll still see the paving come in. That's Palisade's not part of that. That's all 100% CDOT that they worked with our project, I think is great, because we will have new asphalt with our new curb, gutter, sidewalk landscaping. This has been a great team project. It's been a team project with CDOT and the town of Palisade. It's been a year in the design and engineering process. And we are finishing, United had till May 30th to complete this project, and they're actually finishing, they finished the concrete way a month early. And the project itself is being completed 2 weeks, 3 weeks early. So they've done a great job. The construction workers have done a great job. Really want to thank CDOT. They have quality control process. So as you heard earlier, one of the center islands, the curb and gutter got poured an inch too low, which is very hard to measure with asphalt and concrete. And they did replace that within 3 days. It was torn out and new curb and gutter were put in the middle island. That's part of the quality control of this project in United. So everything has gone great, and we're really lucky to have the construction we have. There's been over 100 people involved with this project, and it's just amazing how how great it is and how great everyone's been. So excited, and we'll be having a ribbon cutting too when they finish the asphalt.
Well, so like in the example of the, with the situation with the concrete that got poured incorrectly, that, basically that cost fell on CDOT and a contractor, not the town of Palisade, correct?
Correct. Yes, it falls on the contractor, and if you were able to watch it, it is a huge piece of equipment, and it's actually pouring curb and gutter out. And this is a challenging highway because it's so flat and has a lot of layers of asphalt on it. So they really wanted to make sure the drainage worked. So the north side of that curb, they feared the drainage would get, the water would get stuck there, so they had them re-pour it, and United did. So there was no battle or anything, so it worked out well.
The plants look wonderful. All of that landscaping plan for those plants, that was like decided what, months ago? Or when was that all decided as far as the landscaping that occurred within the construction?
Yeah, the landscaping was going on the same time with the design and engineering of the highway, so it was a year process. CDOT has to review it. Different neighboring properties needed to. We did have some extra trees. We spent a couple hours with the owner of Dino Mart and also the property manager. So a lot of this is with the property owners that are contacted.
Dino Mart.
Yeah, and actually the owner, Ken, who actually owns that entire block, has been involved for the last year on this project. We want to thank him too, because he actually repaved his parking lot and striped it and created a new entryway. We're working with Dino Mart on a new entry sign to help them get that passed through the CDOT process, because that's actually a CDOT approval sign. And then also with the landscaping, we did have extra trees since the clinic project. We didn't want to plant on the north side. So we did put them in different parts of the landscaping and worked with different owners of where they might want them or where they'd fit on the property. So, and we did spend an hour and a half yesterday with the Dino Mart store owner with his landscaping and walking through everything. So,
I've actually really been able to enjoy the new pavement on the highway, especially today with my bike ride home. So that's been a lot of fun to see that. As far as any of that project from Clifton Elementary all the way out, I guess it's going all the way out to the parking lot for the Palisade Plunge, correct on that?
all the way to I-70.
All the way to I-70, sorry, my mistake. Any questions about any of this? Basically, it should be referred to the CDOT PIO?
Yeah, so the town of Palisade United was required to hire a PIO, which we want to thank Hannah with Hayred Marketing. She did handle a lot of different questions that people had. She's full-time on, so we did have 2 trees that we planted close to Brentwood, but they were not in our clear zone triangle. But some of the residents that live down in our 55+ community were struggling with line of sight from their cars, so we moved them. She took all the questions and then she relays them to United and our engineer. So from those, they repeated. So yeah, they're really good. Now with the completion of this project, it goes to a woman named Tracy, and she'll be sending us info, and then they have it on the website if you have questions about the paving project. She's their PIO. Any complaints or concerns go to her. Same thing, we had Hayred for our project, who handled any complaints or concerns.
Okay.
And I have to say, she did a great job. Really kept us informed.
Has CDOT given us any indication as to when they may be down in Palisade with this chip seal, or with this new asphalt project?
Yeah, and I wanted to have a committed date. I've heard between the week of the 12th and 18th, so coming very soon. But I do know they just had some issues in Clifton, so it might be delayed a little bit. But when we find out, we'll definitely do a Facebook blast and
Hopefully
let
before
everybody know.
Bluegrass,
Just
right?
as long as it's not bluegrass.
Yeah, yeah. No, they're supposed to be done by within June all the way to I-70, so.
Oh, wow, okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
so it's exciting.
Okay. Any other questions for Janet? Okay. So we had a request, I'm not sure if we should handle this now, or if we want to do this during the board comment section. You guys let me know about this request for this letter.
Yeah, that's what I was
Would you like to take care of, discuss this now, whether or not
That
we
might
want
be
to
better during open discussion.
You want to do it during
I
open?
think so.
All right, I just want to be clear whether or not you felt like we should handle it now or talk about it once we
Seems
get to
more
that point.
appropriate there.
Yep.
Huh? Okay. Okay, with that in mind, we will move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is intended to allow the board to spend its time on more complex items. These items are generally perceived as non-controversial and can be approved by a single motion. The public or any board member may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda for individual consideration. Do I hear a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Mickelai?
Yes.
Trustee Maxwell?
Yes.
Trustee Chase?
Yes.
Trustee Harbaugh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner?
Yes.
Trustee Somerville?
Yes.
Trustee Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor, that motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is public hearing. The time is now 6:47 PM, and I will open up the public hearing for Palisade Street Eats liquor license application. Acting as the local liquor licensing authority, the Board of Trustees will consider an application for a beer and wine liquor license at 702 37 and a 10th Road as applied for by Corinna Parento of Palisade Street Eats LLC. We'll begin with staff presentation. Kelly?
All right, so we did receive an application for a beer and wine license on March 25th from Palisade Street Eats, located at 702 37 and a 10th Road. All elements of the application have been submitted and deemed complete, and the results, I've gathered some of the most pertinent elements for this presentation. There's lots of details in the packet that we don't need to go over with the rest of the world. Up on the screen right now is the diagram of the proposed Street Eats premises. All liquor sold by Street Eats will be restricted to beer and wine, and no alcohol may leave the black dotted line within their drawing there. They plan on having fencing up with one entrance to allow beer and wine to stay within that section. Definition of beer and wine license, you've seen this a handful of times. Beer and wine licensees shall have sandwiches and light snacks available on the premises during business hours but need not have meals. Because this is for Palisade Street Eats, they will have all of their food vendor trucks out there, so making sure there's food and light snacks is not a problem for them. Excuse me. This is a map with a 500-foot radius. The schools are not within that 500-foot radius for that beer and wine license. I did ask for comments from our different directors for this application. Community Development did bring up parking, hours of operation, and occupancy concerns that are also listed within your packets. I'd be happy to read them if you need me to, otherwise they are there for you to review. Fire Department and Police Department did not have any concerns. Other directors did approach me and let me know that there had been concerns about parking on the frontage road from the neighboring residents and just general people about town. And then neighbors of the Street Eats said apparently there's been a complaint about the smell of the food coming from the food court. As part of the application, a neighborhood needs and desires petition is required. My office did supply the applicant with a map with a 500-foot radius and a list of 30 addresses surrounding the premises. The applicant did return a petition with 8 signatures in favor of granting the application and none opposed. And if you have any questions about the application or anything within the packet, I am here happy to answer whatever you got.
Next, we'll hear from the applicant. So if the applicant wishes to come forward and present their case.
Hello, Karina Peranto, 3603 Grand Valley Canal Road, Palisade, Colorado, 81526. The only change that I wanted to see, if it was possible, was to fence off the entire area to make it a little bit easier, and we were going to do actual assigned parking off of the fenced area too. So we would have gates that would say parking and then fence off the frontage road? Are you going to that? Can you guys hear me okay?
So I don't understand.
Okay.
So in other words, you're wanting to fence off the entire location?
Yes.
So that beer and wine can be served within the entire location?
Yes. If that's not possible, not a problem. I just thought that it might clean it up to have it go around the whole perimeter, and then where the parking spaces are, have that gated off like a box, and have actual parking spaces, and also at the corner of the frontage and 37 110th Road.
Wait, can you say that again? What about 37 and a tens? You're gonna do what on that?
The parking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be.
Could you go up to the
Yes.
map and point it? It would
Weatherman.
be easier.
Do the weatherman thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it would be fenced off completely, except the fence would come this way, and this would be a gate opening up for the food trucks. But on that gate, it would say parking, so it would have actual 4 parking spaces, and then also in this area. So it would be boxed out for parking. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the fence would go all the way around, up this way, and up that way.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else within your presentation?
No, I'm just, the wind has been hellacious, but we try to clean it up.
We'll work
and-
on that.
Yeah, I know, right? But I'm getting a lot of mostly great feedback that they're happy to have food trucks in town and have some extra food. So trying to do everything that we can do. I've been posting a lot about not driving up and trying to bike up, so I can, I post a lot on what's happening in Palisade, and I can ask people to not park on the frontage road too. So I'll promote biking as much as possible. I'm trying to get with Pedicab also, to have him drive people back and forth and maybe do some deliveries too. So it's not so much driving up, but I love seeing Cresthaven Acres just walk up. Most of them just come and hang out, which is awesome. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item, or next up is public comment. You do not need to sign up for public comment on this issue. You just come forward and state your name and address. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Is there anybody who wishes to make public comment on this item? Yes.
Hello, my name is Rhonda Hummel, 598 Preserve Lane, Grand Junction, Colorado, 81507. I just want to encourage you to accept this. Karina and Nate have brought an amazing venue to Palisade, which I think is conducive to just the fun stuff they have here in Palisade. So, and I think they've been very responsible business owners by addressing parking issues. They've secured parking over from the winery, and every time there's an event, there's been cones out there. And yeah, there is a lot of traffic, but that's just because people want to come and enjoy their venue. So there again, I just encourage you to accept it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment at this time? No? Okay, seeing none, I'll close out the public comment section of this public hearing and open it up for board discussion and/or questions. Jamie?
First off is a question, reading the different department statements. As far as the things that came across, is any of that relevant to the proceedings as far as smells and whatnot? As far as a liquor license goes?
It would fall within the neighborhood needs and desires, that the applicant has to show that there is a need, and a desire for having a liquor license at that location.
Okay. I just want to bring to light one of the points that Director Rushy made, talking about coinciding the hours with Palisade High School. Have you guys considered timing it as it pertains to school, like maybe not, having summer hours that are in between school times, and maybe during when school's in session, not not selling liquor until after 3:30 or 4? Because that was one of the recommendations that came through in our packet. Yes, please. And I do have one other question on that that's related. I can go ahead and ask it so you can answer it in totality. Have you guys had students come for lunch from Palisade High School?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that would reinforce the need to not sell during school hours, because that just is an obvious intersection. So
Yeah.
can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that wouldn't be an issue. They're going to be carding, of course, everybody. So I'm going to make sure none of those kids are served. But it's the weekends mainly. And then I guess summertime, you know, that's not going to hurt business at all. So so what are the hours? What is it?
So it'd be 7:20 to 3:30-ish.
Is it 3:30? I thought it was 2:30.
Maybe, well, I'm a middle school teacher, so I don't know
Oh.
what high schools do.
2:30.
2:30? I think that.
We do have some, obviously extracurricular activities.
3 would be an easy number.
Yeah. Yeah, if that's what I would have to do, I mean, I'm definitely open to that.
I think
Yes.
that would be my request, and then that would expire when school is out officially.
Yeah.
Re-enter when school starts. And I don't think that's going to affect you at all, because those aren't going to be peak tourist hours anyways.
Sometimes during lunch, I mean, they
Because you're
want
going
to
to
come
have
and have.
Memorial Day to Labor Day for the most part,
Yeah,
of being able to do peak summer hours with that.
yeah.
And I think that'd be my only request on this.
Okay.
If we're putting this together, is that stipulation.
Okay, got it. You said you had one more, though?
I put it in there.
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay.
Might as well stay in case there's more questions.
Okay.
Thea?
My question is for Community Development Director Rushi. The number of parking spaces that were required, or that we discussed when this was originally granted, can you remind me of what that was and what I know we talked about kind of the parking issue at that time, but what was the number of parking spaces that were
Right.
required?
So the history of the property is the request that Karina made to change the zoning of the property to mixed use. By changing the zoning of the property to mixed use, it allowed the ability to do commercial operations on the property. While there was the same plan, this plan was incorporated into that packet, though the board was not specifically approving that plan because the criteria for a rezone are a little bit different. But the gist of it is this. Our typical standard for a restaurant space is about one parking space for every 100 square feet. Food trucks are a little different because you don't you can take the food, you can stay. It's a very small footprint, the truck itself, but then there's the area in which, and you can see it in the fenced area where people may gather to stay. And so the rationale at the time was that absent any application, certainly for a liquor license, that it would be an opportunity to simply grab something, maybe socialize for a bit. It's clearly more popular than that, and that's a good thing. And so what Karina has done is reached out, it's my understanding, she's reached out to a number of the adjacent properties. My suggestion with respect to the comment on the license is that those agreements be formalized. Certainly, probably a good thing, a handshake agreement or something at this time. Putting something a little bit more formal together protects both you as well as that other location for saying, yeah, we've kind of set aside some of our parking that we already don't need, just so it's clear that there's an alternative. So again, in terms of parking, the parking requirement for a grab-and-go sort of situation is really small. The popularity of this has exceeded even what I think many expected. And so that's my only request at this point, is to maybe get that more formalized so that everyone can understand the terms.
Is there anything we can draw on to give us guidance in terms of the number of spaces or anything? I mean, I realize that since this was a zoning,
Right.
then it's use by right, correct? It was, we
Right.
we set
I
the
reviewed the
zoning
site plan
instead
afterwards,
of
yep.
you- Right, and so like, is there any other benchmarks based on, because we don't have anything in our code regarding food truck type.
Correct.
Right, Is there any other thing we can base this on rather than arbitrary, is what I'm guessing asking?
Well, I wouldn't use the word arbitrary, because that was my rationale in
Right.
coming up with it. Again, clearly the popularity is a little bit more. I did have an opportunity to measure a similar sized food court in downtown Grand Junction. It's virtually identical. However, downtown Grand Junction has lots of public parking, whereas this particular site doesn't have access to public parking. And so, and also looking at Grand Junction's ordinance relative to food trucks, they don't really address parking because the assumption is that you're operating in a commercial parking lot already. You're taking one of the parking spaces in, I'll use Kmart because they don't exist, but in the Kmart parking lot, and people are popping in to do business anyway, grabbing something from the food truck and then moving on. So it's certainly an emerging sort of use, if you will. So I don't know that there's a number that we would pick out that wouldn't, in one way or the other, be kind of arbitrary, if that makes sense.
Okay, and then I have two questions, both revolving around the parking issue. The first is for you. So you've got this one parking space, that's where your truck entrance is. You've also got this other parking space with a truck exit, and then a blank spot in between. What's in the blank spot right now?
Electrical pole. If anybody would love to move it, I can create more spaces.
So you're not able to utilize
No,
that in any
no.
way for any type of
I wish I could. I don't know.
for parking? Okay.
Yep,
I just,
Yep, those are four, so it's four
and how many
parking.
spaces are in each one of those altogether?
That big box is four, and then that one at the bottom is two. And right now, nobody can park there because there is a water leak, and Town of Palisade's working on it.
In the 2 spot?
Yeah.
But normally you'd have 6.
Mhm.
Okay. So then the next question, so Brian, because you would like to see these parking agreements formalized, would it make more sense for us to hold off on granting this liquor license one way or another until we actually see that agreement's formalized? Because that actually would,
You can make it a condition.
Make it a condition?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you be specific as to what, because I'm writing it down for the motion, is there specifics in there that you would want to be included?
Just a formal parking agreement with neighboring businesses to be,
Presented
on file
on
with the city,
file.
yeah.
But does that state a number?
That's what I was
I mean, there's
wondering.
gonna
Yeah,
be
that's what
cost potentially, this is, that's what I'm.
Again, I am not at this point looking to establish an arbitrary number. What I understand is that Karina's done the work and negotiated a number of spaces, and I don't know what the numbers are, how many you have guaranteed, if you will. Just put it in writing. If we put it in writing, that business owner, commits to it. Karina is, entitled to it, if you will, by virtue of this being in writing. We're informed of it. So if we do have a situation, we can point to that and say, you're supposed to have people parking over there to the extent you can. Is that going to prevent all of the parking concerns? Maybe, maybe not. But that's a decision for the board.
So I don't necessarily think it is arbitrary, because in your professional opinion, you might have a minimum number that's necessary for the circumstance. And in your formal arrangement vision in your head, you might have a number that might be acceptable. Do you have a number in your head of what your goal would be?
No, my agreement with them was for events, and for overflow, so it wasn't, and, that's per event.
Okay.
So.
This is with Plum Creek?
Well, Plum Creek is fine with us parking on their side, but like the church let us park there for events. And Vintners, I had talked to Jana Lynn, and I have not talked to the owner of Vintners, but they said that they would maybe work up an agreement, because it's going to bring people to their wineries too, and we can serve all of their wine. So the wineries were happy to agree, but nobody said anything about parking. I mean, I guess parking is an issue in the whole town right now. I think we're all getting too popular, not just a food truck court.
Yes, but you understand, we want to make sure that, because what's happened here, to be perfectly honest, at least
Yeah.
from and this is my opinion, because I drive by there quite often, or ride my bike right by there.
Yeah.
And I have seen people parked on the frontage road.
Me too.
And what our understanding is that wasn't going to be the case.
They're not supposed to be, but, you know, I'm gonna have if beer and wine gets approved, somebody will be managing the entire place, everything. So, I'm going to be posting, I don't know if I can put any signs on the frontage road. It's CDOT.
Yeah, so.
So I can't.
Well, no, you can't, but it is one of those things where.
She wouldn't have any control with that.
No, she doesn't have any control over that, but I mean, it is one of those things. We've had some issues with businesses and parking and people saying, well, I can't control that. Well, it is one of those situations where if you allow a business and it creates a parking issue,
Yeah.
you know, that basically ultimately kind of falls to us having approved that business in the long run.
No, for sure. And I can post on more social media, and I can have signs on our side that say no parking on the frontage road.
Well, who-
So-
That you can do.
Yeah,
Or you can even put them on your fence.
yeah, yep.
Wow.
Who's there? Are you there or is somebody else there right now when these trucks are serving? And if so, and you see cars there, do you go and say, excuse me, whoever is here, parked here, you need to move your car, it's not permitted?
Well, I do, but the food trucks are not gonna do it.
No,
That's
I know
why-
that, I don't expect the food trucks
Yeah.
to do it, I expect you to do it.
Yeah.
So, that's not happening now.
Well, I can't be there 24/7. It's a,
Well,
you know, it's a
not open
space.
24/7.
Well, I know, but I can't be there from 10 o'clock until 8 o'clock at night. When there's beer and wine, it's gonna be managed, but the food trucks, they're there to serve food, and unfortunately, when I'm there, I tell people not to park there. But with signs going up on the fence, I think that would prevent people from parking there.
Okay?
I mean, I won't list
So
it, but.
that might be another one of the
I
stipulations.
just wrote that down. So two
Yeah.
things that I've added, and this can just be a consensus, possible stipulations, and of course, this can be negotiable. I added no parking signs on fence on the frontage road, and possibly another one that kind of came up, and I think we're wanting a manager to be on site. Would we agree that that should be a stipulation?
Yeah,
This can-
that would not be I'm
Question.
gonna have to. I've got somebody that would work the entire.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, Stan,
Go for
please.
it.
As a liquor licensing authority, can we even put any stipulations on it?
Yes,
It's either license yes or license
Yes, we can.
no.
we can.
You can't.
Yes. In fact, we
Okay.
have it, because the other stipulation I would actually like to see within this, to be perfectly honest, we did this with the paddleboard place, is to review in 1 year.
Yes.
So in other words,
Okay.
with the paddleboard, when we agreed to that liquor license, we set certain hours, we set certain conditions to have it fenced, and we also set a stipulation that that we would review this in 1 year. Now, normally what happens when you grant a liquor license, once it's been granted, the renewal process only needs to go through Kelly once a year to approve it. However, we can make a stipulation that 1 year from now, we're gonna review this liquor license and see how it worked out.
So when it goes to the state of Colorado, they put those same things on it then?
No.
They do
Because-
not. The
Right.
the way the
Stipulations are
liquor
from us.
license
So the
works, it's
license
a
is from
dual
the state.
licensing, so they have to get a license through the state and through us. So,
Both.
Two-
Oh.
right,
two
it's
entities.
two separate licenses that they have to have in order
Okay.
to be able to serve on their property.
All right.
And in case that causes heartburn, the one that he's referencing came back for their one review. They did a great job, and we removed that stipulation on the second review. So
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
have a history of holding our word on it.
No, I wanna do it right.
Yeah.
I do, you know, we need to fence off the entire area, I think, to make it right, and not just that circle in the middle.
I am.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry. I am a little uncomfortable about the parking, because I just don't know how we're basing that on, and I guess there's two parts of this. One is, gee, it's great that we're doing our comprehensive plan. Maybe we could look at some sort of a possible revisions to codes dealing with food trucks, because this is a huge thing, and it's gonna continue to be a thing, and it is a different calculation, and I'm kind of a little uncomfortable with trying to put a stipulation in that has no teeth, because there's no number. It's like, just get an agreement. Well, what does that mean? Is it for events? Is it for overflow? Is it for, every day? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what, I'm a little uncomfortable with that, because it's not very specific, and it's kind of, so I'm looking for something to base it on. That's my comfort level, and I do remember in our conversations, we were thinking it was grab and go, so we knew there was potentially parking issues, but now it's, when you have liquor, people are gonna be hanging out. So it's a little bit
Hopefully,
different.
finally.
Yeah, hopefully, right?
Yeah,
So I'm a little uncomfortable with that. Just wanted to.
No.
bring that up.
agree.
Can I just
Yeah, Nicole.
bring up a couple of different things that so part of this as the local licensing authority, it's up to us to ensure that a good and true sampling of the designated neighborhood was taken. Looking at this, there was a list of 30 residences within 500 feet that was provided. 8 signatures were obtained without objection. One of those signatures is outside of that 500-foot radius, so you're talking 7 signatures out of 30 properties. None of those properties on this petition are any of the ones that are directly behind this business on 37 and a 10th Road, and that to me is an issue. They're all from Rupp Avenue, which is across the frontage road, across the highway, and across another frontage road, Crest Haven. I just don't think that we have a good feel of how the people directly affected by this would feel about it. I don't know if you spoke to them and what their opinion was. The other issue I have is within this drawing, it doesn't indicate to us anywhere where the beer and wine, where are you gonna set up and sell it from?
I think it's a black box.
There was an extra picture that we did. I can show you. I can get up and show you too. I did not go directly behind. I own the little house directly behind.
But there's 3 other properties right there, right?
I didn't know that I needed to go that route. I thought I only needed a few signatures, to be honest, so I did as many as I could.
Those would have been the first 3 that I went to.
Okay.
If I was in your
Yeah.
position, they would have been the
One
first
of
3 I went to.
one of them owns a food truck
No, I know.
behind there, but no, I've never talked to them, or at least, I don't know, if they've come over, I haven't talked to them, but I haven't heard any issues from anyone.
Okay.
But
You've
can I
never
show-
had any complaints from any of those 3
No,
homeowners?
nope,
Mm-hmm.
not one. Because I would
Karina,
think
I-
that they would come tonight if that were the case too, but
My computer has completely frozen,
I can-
and I can't pull that picture up for you.
I can
I'm
go up
sorry.
and show you really quick.
Because I kind of looked at it the same way I did. I didn't make that connection.
So, we are not doing nearly as many food trucks, and we moved one over here, so it would be over in this part, away from the frontage road.
So it's gonna be in
So
that
it would be a bar that would sit in this corner, that would be locked up and fenced off. You see where that dumpster is? Because right now we have that dumpster right
But it
there.
has to be in
It has
here.
to be within.
It has to be in here.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Oh, I thought that I was.
Nope.
No.
We haven't approved the idea of actually doing a fence all the way around.
Okay.
Right.
So we haven't approved that concept or gone with that. So we're still working based upon the original concept of this fenced-off area within the interior of your
Yeah, that
property.
10 foot by 20 foot.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
all,
right here is
it's all
where-
gotta be in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that
This is where
box
the
is your bar.
So the box is correct, yeah, the 10 by 20 structure, I'm sorry. But if, the only change that I would like to make, if you guys, if this moves forward, is to move it up in this corner and fence off the entire area instead of just.
Well, then
fencing off.
that changes the whole liquor license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you start
Between the
over.
town
You
and
need
the
a new drawing.
state.
Okay, then,
Because that means this is irrelevant and we shouldn't go any further.
no, then I'll just leave it the way that it is in the drawing, that's not a problem.
I agree. Because
Agree with
you,
what?
I'd like to
Leave it,
make.
leave it in the era?
that we can't go any, we can't go any further.
She just
because-
moved it
I'd
back
like-
into the box.
I'd like to make a motion. that
But
we
you're not
table-
serving
That
from
we
there.
table this, and
You're
we've got.
hauling liquor from.
Okay, hold on,
somewhere
please,
else.
one moment. let Stan finish because he had a comment, and then you can do your motion.
If you're boxing off that 10-foot by 20-foot by fence, that's your controlled area, that's your licensed premises.
Yes.
Okay, that means your bar is there, your refrigeration, your beer, your wine, everything
Yes,
is in that 200 square feet
Yes.
with 4
Not entirely, sorry. I can elaborate on the drawing itself. The 10 by 20 is the bar, the dashed line, the darker dashed line around the 4 tables in the fire pit. That's the area.
So,
Oh, you're talking that, the little rectangle down there is 10 foot by 20 foot is the bar?
This is the licensed area.
and that doesn't even exist right now.
Right,
Correct.
yeah.
It's an
Okay.
Yeah, it's an application saying we would like to fence off that area.
Stan, also, just to, so like when we did the beer and wine license for Spoken Vine, they basically said, here's where we're going to do it.
Yep.
And then they didn't already have a fenced-in area, so they then, once it was approved, fenced in the area appropriately. So you would be doing the same thing. They would basically go in, and once the approval was, if it did get approved, they then would create that restricted area.
Right, I understand.
It doesn't exist now yet, though, no.
So I have a clarifying question about the fence then.
Yes.
Are we talking about 2 fences, one around the perimeter and then another one around the
Probably
liquor
not.
area?
Well, yeah, at this point, if I
Okay.
would have to leave it that way, then yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, so.
Then that way we could
So what were
have
you talking
signs.
about that's going to be up in that
Nothing
right-hand
now.
corner?
Nothing
Nothing now.
Nothing.
That changed.
Nothing.
She's moved away from that. She will
Yep.
go back to the original plan
Yes.
of this this black area.
Yes.
10 by 20. Do you know the dimensions of that fenced area?
Well,
It has to be more than 20
It's
foot.
gotta be more than 20.
It's got to be way more than 20 feet.
Well, that's
Looks
what
more
I'm
like
wondering.
40 if that's to scale.
If
Yeah.
that bar is 10 by 20,
Yeah.
then that fenced-in
No,
area is
60.
The
I'd
bar
say
is
60.
actually 10 by 16. It's
That's fine.
160 square
The
feet.
fenced area that you're gonna create, what are the dimensions?
Because that whole
The-
area isn't that big. Is it?
Is it drawing to scale?
No.
no.
Okay.
Yes, Bill.
My understanding on a liquor license is that the dimensions have to be on the map, and it has to be for scale. There's nothing here, there's no dimensions, there's no scale, like 1 inch equals 10 foot, or whatever. So this isn't even the parameters to apply for a liquor license, from my understanding of what the liquor license, the state wants.
Requirements are.
It has to be detailed with the dimensions.
I'm trying to pull it up right now. Like I said, my computer's having issues. I know it does not have to be to scale.
But the
But
dimensions
we
have
need
to
to
be
have the
stated.
dimensions even on the fence. That's my understanding of applying for a liquor license.
I had it here.
So, on
it does-
the state application, on the second page of the application, it says, diagram of the premises, dimensions included, does not have to be to scale. Exterior areas should show type of control, fences, walls, entry, exit points.
That's fine, it doesn't have to be to scale, but what are the
But
dimensions?
there's no dimensions.
Have to be there. The dimensions have to be there. Which is that whole center court isn't one.
Kelly, did we?
The
write those in?
dimensions of the entire property are there.
But
I guess
that's
they're
not,
not there for the
But
licensed
the licensed premises.
area.
Yeah, the dimensions have to be there. I mean, we can't even vote on this without that being complete, and that's not complete.
I think now's the
Now
time.
go.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this in order to get a complete application with the information that was just provided by our town clerk, as well as clarification on the requirements and/or the agreements for parking. and some discussion about the hours in terms of the limits so that we can make sure that our high school students are not in session when there's liquor being served.
And I would second that.
Could I just add one piece of information to your, they are by Colorado law able to stay open until 2 a.m. in the morning. I just wanted you to know that.
I don't think that's part of the issue at the time.
That's not part of our issue.
Can I do that more specifically?
Okay, actually, the one thing, no.
No, that's
Because we've already got a motion, we have a second. So, in this case, because of the way it was stated, I think it's fairly clear what we're looking for, just to make sure, and I'm just, to finish off the discussion, we're looking, A, for a complete application with all the dimensions required for an application. B, we're looking for some clarification on these agreements for parking spaces, and actually, if you would be wise, I would think, to actually have them in place and have them in hand as you work on your application. I don't need that. And then 3, basically coming in and telling us, or having it part of your application, that what hours you will be serving beer and wine. All right? Because you included that as part of your motion, I'm going to include that, or basically clarify that as part of what we're voting on. What would probably end up happening is that we would probably end up having that as part of the stipulation or a condition of the license anyway, as far as the operating hours.
That's what I'm saying, you just didn't include them all.
We don't need to include all of that, because all of that will become later on. When the complete application comes to us, we can then put the rest of those conditions in. We're gonna put the conditions on it for the operating hours. We're gonna put the condition on that it comes back to us in a year. We're gonna be doing that in 2 weeks when this application reappears before the board. That is if the motion to table is successful. So we have a motion and a second to table this application. Kelly, is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Maxwell?
Yes.
Trustee Chase?
Yes.
Trustee Harbaugh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner?
Yes.
Trustee Somerville?
Yes.
Trustee Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor Mickelai?
Yes.
Mayor, that motion carries.
Thank you. Time is now 7:23, and I will close public hearing on the Palisade Streets Eats liquor license application. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business broadband. The Board of Trustees will consider authorizing the town manager to commit a 50% grant match to the DOLA broadband grant application. We'll begin with staff presentation, please.
So we did get board approval to apply for a DOLA grant to create the middle mile, build the middle mile from I-70 to the fire station down Alberta to this building. And then there'd be a 10 by 20 C&L building built. And this has been work done with Trustee Turner, Trustee Maxwell, Region 10, and DOLA, Department of Local Affairs. DOLA has special state funding for broadband projects. This is part of that funding. We were hoping to partner with Mesa County because this middle mile and C&L building would help service areas outside of the town of Palisade boundary, which would be the Vinelands, East Orchard Mesa, areas towards Clifton. They at this time are not ready to put money towards broadband. So instead of us doing a 50-50 grant match and splitting that with Mesa County, so we'd have 25% and they would, they're not ready for that. So if we want to apply for this DOLA grant, we do have to support the whole 50% of the grant match. So it would be $409,000 of the total grant request. What I learned speaking with our regional representative is this is the last state funding coming down for broadband. There will be federal funds in the future. However, federal funds, it's not for certain we'll get them, or we have a chance getting them. Our chances of getting them greatly are reduced. And it will also cost us more money because with the federal funds, we'll have to do Buy Only USA local supplies. We'll have to do the Davis-Bacon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it might even cost us that much money with a federal match anyway. So We do have a presentation in Golden to the DOLA board for this grant request if this board is in favor of matching the $409,000 with DOLA. And so that's why I'm here to see if you would like to move forward. Part of someone who's requested is we do get $365,000 still from CARES Act funding this year from the American Rescue Plan funds. Last year we spent it on 2 ambulances. The board has not earmarked where those funds go yet, so those funds are available. So the request here is, do you want me to withdraw our application, or would you like to move forward with building the middle mile CNL building and supporting the entire 50% grant match?
So
At the end of your presentation?
Yes.
Now we'll open it up for board comments and questions.
You want to
Ellen?
start and then I'll take it?
So as I'm understanding it, the town's getting an additional $365,000 in American Rescue Plan funds. The total grant match is approximately 408, which would be
43 to
cash-
$45,000.
Yeah, $45,000-ish out of our budget.
And I will say that the DOLA grant, in and of itself, this is the last big shot we have, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime shot. I was speaking, Bill Carlson put me into contact with a gentleman named Gene Fournet, who has forgotten more than we will ever collectively know about the broadband issues and all the people involved and all the players involved. And he indicated also that we should definitely go ahead and apply for this grant. One of the things that Greg had brought up was that as we're working through this, we should put together a revenue model, because if we build it and
They will come.
they will come, but we also own it, and that means
Yes.
that
Leasing out to the
leasing
ISPs.
out the ISPs, leasing out to anybody else that wants access to the CNL. So I am strongly for this. If Palisade doesn't invest in fiber, we're gonna be left behind. We're gonna become a dinosaur. There's no choice.
And I did have one more piece of information that was requested of Trustee Carlson and Trustee Turner. Travis couldn't be here tonight, but he did put this. This is a broad overarching of how much money we do have, which was requested at our last meeting. The general fund, cash allocated, I won't read it all out loud because you can read it. This is after we've paid for Highway 6, paid for the demolition of the high school. It does take into consideration our remodel of the gym that we still have to do, the clinic. So after all of that is taken out, the adjusted cash balance is $6 million that we still have in the bank.
So if the board agrees that we can we can allocate $45,000 out of the general fund, the ARPA grant will pay $365 and DOLA will match the $409.
My only question with this is, do we need to make a budget amendment to do this?
That was my next
We if we get the grant, we can do it at that
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Mhm.
Burn that bridge when you get there?
Mhm.
So we have a cash balance of $6 million.
That is after all,
After
and this is
everything-
over. Yeah.
Everything else
Okay.
is paid for, so there's no other, basically, anything else adjusting that at this time.
Required reserves.
But we do have to have the reserve in it, so how much is that reserve?
2 million.
So of that 6 million, we have 4 million available.
No, I bet you not. How much of that money is dedicated funds? You've got the reserve that you have to have in there, you have dedicated funds, is that included in there?
Yeah, this is overarching. Travis was showing,
After all the
we
dedicated
are,
funds
we
that
are
are taken out of
safe.
everything else.
If you want to spend $400,000, we have a very safe safety net.
We are not spending $400,000, we are spending $45,000. Does that, did you receive the $365,000 yet? Is that in those funds?
We have not received it yet.
Okay,
so it's
so
not
that
in yet.
365 isn't in the accounts yet. So when the 365 comes in, we are gonna be requesting 44,000, not 400. Because 365 of that isn't even in yet.
Right. When's that supposed to come in?
Supposedly any day.
Yeah, we're hoping it comes in May. Last time we got it in May.
Okay.
Yes, Thea?
I'm really supportive of this project. I think it's a really smart move for our citizens. It's an opportunity that, as we've heard, is not gonna be around, forever.
No, yeah, this
In terms
is
of that,
good.
those funds being available. I'd hate to do this, but I think there's a clarification that ARPA funds are federal funds, which would push us into Davis-Bacon work wages and the things that you were trying to get us out of with DOLA, but it is federal funds.
Yeah, but the way they're written, it's the same thing, it's the same reason how we were able to buy the ambulances.
Right.
So they
So
can
we're
be
not able
used
to-
for the broadband,
Yeah, no, I believe
Okay.
that. I'm just still
Yeah.
thinking it's federal funds.
It is, but because of the grant process,
We're not gonna need to worry
We're not gonna need to worry about it.
Yeah.
Either way, I am super supportive,
Yeah.
and I do think, as the mayor pointed out, that we have revenue opportunities, and I do think that the county at some point is gonna come down and to come down to the same conclusion
Too late.
and wanting
Huh?
to,
Well, no.
wanting to tap into this, so I do think we have some revenue opportunities too that we
Yes.
haven't quantified.
Well, and I just want to make a clarification. When we budgeted last year, we purposefully did a skinny budget because we were overexposed on just staff. And we anticipated having money left over that we were going to pass forward to the next budget. So this is by design. This isn't unexpected to have a big number like that. I think, my opinion is I do think the motion should include the 365 coming from CARES Act.
I agree.
You know, I don't want to
Question
be
with-
left months and out there.
Okay, good question. Suppose, in other words, if we put this forward to DOLA and it turns out we cannot do the match, obviously, we just don't accept the grant.
Correct.
So in other words,
Well-
it doesn't necessarily need to be there, because if we don't get that,
We're out of the grant
then we're
process
not gonna be
anyway.
able to accept the grant anyway.
And we'll vote on that again, right?
Yes, because we can't accept this grant because it'll all involve budget adjustments and everything
Okay,
anyway.
I'm
so-
satisfied with that.
All right.
Now, I have a question as to procedure. Do we have to give you a memorandum saying that the board states that we will make the match in order to submit to DOLA?
No, all we have to
What-
do is
what is
just,
needed?
all we have to do is just make a motion to, give Janet approval
Yeah.
to apply for the grant.
Okay,
We've,
that's all.
we've applied for the grant, you did pass a resolution, but it was implied that we were splitting the match with Mesa County.
Right.
Now, it will just be implied we're covering the whole thing and we're not partnering with Mesa County,
Okay.
so our resolution is still good for the grant. I just need direction from the board that you want to move forward with supporting
Okay.
it.
So in other words, the decision here is not for a motion, second, and a roll call vote, the decision here is.
No, Kelly would like it, yeah.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
do need to have that.
I am wondering whether we need it contingent on getting the funding from ARPA.
I don't
Well,
think
no,
there's any
then we
harm
just
in
won't
it.
get the grant. If we
Well,
can't
it's,
make the match.
if we're making a motion to.
If somebody wants to include that as part of the motion, that's fine.
That's fine.
The only reason I think it matters-
It's a little on the superfluous side, but go ahead and do that.
The only
I mean,
reason I think it
doesn't
matters is the language says we're authorizing her to commit a 50% grant match in the language of it. So that's the only thing I'm kind of hung up on.
All right.
Well,
Then
does
make that as
DOLA
part of the motion.
I mean, does DOLA really care that it comes 365 from?
No, but we do, because if
We
we're
do.
gonna approve this, we're approving a full grant
Right.
match. And that's why I
Will
thought
that
it would be,
affect-
makes some sense.
It doesn't affect
Fine.
anything. Let's
Well,
not get
fine.
hung up on it. If you feel more comfortable having it as part of
As
the
part-
language of the
then that's
motion,
fine.
include it as part of the language of the motion. Then that way, everybody's
It's I
going to be
understand.
very comfortable with it.
Bill, did you have something?
So, back to our chart here. Of the 6 million that's in the cash, in the fund balance, there's 2 million that's restricted. And that's it. There's no other restrictions at all. So basically, it's 4 million that we have to work with. Okay. So in the future, we should have what's restricted on there so we know what the actual number is for not just us, but for the audience and everybody. So it's not misconstrued that we have $6 million when we actually don't.
Yep.
Do I have a motion from someone on the board?
I would like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to commit a 50% grant match to DOLA for broadband application.
Second.
No, wait.
Okay, that's fine. Let Jamie make an amendment to that resolution, please.
I move to amend the motion to include a stipulation that we use $365,000 of CARES Act funding to support the grant match.
Second.
Okay, with that in mind, we will first vote on the amendment to the resolution. Kelly, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor Mickelai?
Yes.
Trustee Maxwell?
Yes.
Trustee Chase?
Yes.
Trustee Harbaugh?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner?
Yes.
Trustee Somerville?
Yes.
Mayor, that motion carries.
Next, we'll vote on the resolution, which will now include the added language of the amendment. Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Chase?
Yes.
Trustee Harbaugh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner?
Yes.
Trustee Somerville?
Yes.
Trustee Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor Mickelai?
Yes.
Trustee Maxwell?
Yes.
Mayor, that motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, new business, interviews and appointments for the Palisade Planning Commission. The Board of Trustees will interview 5 candidates for 5 open seats on the Palisade Planning Commission. A silent priority vote will occur after the interviews to fill the 5 positions, and the highest votes filling the 3-year terms and lowest vote serving the 1-year term. A single roll call vote will appoint the commissioners to their respective seats. Do we have any questions concerning the priority voting process?
I have one. If we get a clear consensus for any number of people and there's a tie at the bottom, do the people with the clear consensus move forward and we only vote for those second? Or do we have to revote the entire thing if there's any number of tie for the bottom ones?
In other words, if there's a tie for the 1-year position, do we then only vote on who gets the 1 year and who would actually then move on to the 3?
I would say yes, ultimately that is your
Okay.
decision.
I just want to get that clear before we voted.
Okay. Any other questions on the priority voting process?
I just have a question on the information that we gather on these applications. I, for some reason, remember an application that gets filled out with like some more information than just the very brief, emails that we received in our package.
There is an application, or there was when I did.
I've heard of what you speak, but I'm not sure of.
I'm pretty sure we've done this differently every time I've voted.
Yeah, I've seen a version of a volunteer application, which is one way to get additional information, but in this case, the request went
Work
out
sessions, we've got to-
for letters of interest, and that's what was provided, so. If you want us to do it differently next time, we can. How long of a form would you like? Like a really long
nothing
one?
onerous, but
or
I
just- okay.
think it's just some background,
Right.
I mean, I would imagine that folks would like to talk about why they're, what their background and qualifications are, and it's, how long they've been in the community.
Well, that's why we invited them tonight.
True, I get it.
I understand.
I get it, but thank you.
With that in mind, we'll bring forward the interviews, the applicants, one at a time. And we will basically give you 1 minute. It's a real simple question. Why do you want to serve on the Planning Commission? Boom. We're going to keep this real straightforward if it's all right with the board. So with that in mind, Donald Bosch, please come forward.
Good evening, trustees, Mr. Mayor. My name is Don Bosch, 515 Milliman Street, Palisade, Colorado. I have previously served on the Planning Commission for 4 years and spent 2 years acting as chairman. At this point in time, I see the town is doing a new comp plan. I think that is one of the most important things that the board, the commissioners can have input on to present to the board and work with the board on developing it. What's going to occur in 5 years? What's going to occur in 10 years? Nobody has a crystal ball. But we can at least outline and set guidelines for where we would like to go. I believe differently than perhaps some other individuals. Property ownership does not necessarily give property rights. A 40-acre parcel does not give you the right to develop 40 homes or 80 homes. It's got to be done within the system. previous to serving on the planning commission here, I served on the planning commission for Routt County for 4 years. I see some of the things that failed in Steamboat that concern me could fail here if we don't get the comp plan correct.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And actually, you'll get 2 minutes. I gave you 2 minutes.
Oh.
So I figured, what the heck,
Just moving
we'll give
some
everybody else
goalposts
2
around.
minutes. Amy?
Make sure that microphone's on.
I think it is.
Is it on?
Yeah.
I mean, we're probably not close enough to it. This, time didn't start, right? Good.
Just did
Cool.
now.
Sorry,
Awesome,
you just used up
awesome.
I'll give you that when you got 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna stop and reset now.
Cool, I appreciate it. I am Amy Geekus. Amy May is not necessary. Amy is just fine. And to answer the one question is because I love Palisade. I really do. I grew up here. A little bit more on my background. I don't know if you guys were provided with resumes or cover letters. Okay. So I graduated from Palisade High School as senior class president, 2011. Still a big Bulldog fan. From there, I went to Colorado Mesa University, completed my degree in political science, and then actually went on to viticulture and enology, winemaking, and grape growing. Since then, and actually never left Palisade in that time frame, I'm actually right up the road at 317 Peach Avenue. So I've seen all the changes. It's super, super exciting. I want to see my generation step up and be a part of the town of Palisade. See, that is very important. So that all came out really fast. Did I hit the minute mark there?
You didn't even get to a minute, Amy. Good work.
Awesome, awesome. Any questions before I?
No, thank you.
Awesome, of
No,
course.
thank you so much for wanting to serve.
Thank you.
Riley? Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you, dude.
Don't know where I am in the alphabet, I guess. Good evening, trustees and Mr. Mayor. My name is Riley Parker, 3747 G Road in Palisade. I want to keep going so I can actually finish an entire term as a commissioner, having only had a partial term before. There's a lot of great stuff going on. I'm really appreciative of everything that has been done by Janet, and now I'm appreciating Brian because he's going to give us the opportunity to address the comprehensive plan. It'd be nice to be a part of that. Is that a minute?
That's not even 40 seconds, Riley. Good
Oh,
work.
good. I'm done.
Well done.
We're just cutting this down
You got more.
exponentially.
Oh, we're not cutting it down. They're just finishing fast.
That's what I mean.
I'm here to help.
The forces
Yeah.
of nature.
Penny, if you're done, Riley?
10 seconds.
Penny, you now have 30 seconds.
No, no.
That's a new standard.
And please use the microphone.
Okay, Stan. Penny Prinster, 309 West 5th, Palisade, Colorado, 81526. Good evening, everybody. And the reason I want to be on, the comprehensive plan that now exists came into being when I was on the board. And then we did the land development code right after that. There was a membership of 5 of us on the board that did it. It was a horrible document, but it still was the document that everybody used because there was nothing else. Since then, it has been revised, and now that's what we use. But I would love to be a part of the new comprehensive plan because it is so important for the people that live in this town and how it operates and does what it does for the citizens. And that's one of the reasons. The other reason is because I just love being on the planning commission.
Okay. Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Leora? Oh, there.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leora Rusin, 230 East 3rd Street, Palisade, 81526. And the reason I want to be on the Planning Commission is because I'm a Palisade resident, born and raised here. I have a child going into Palisade High School next year. I'm a Palisade Bulldog. My father-in-law has been a longstanding citizen here, Tim Rusin, worked at the high school and the middle school. I have a background in housing and finance. As the Senior Vice President of Lending at Colorado Federal Credit Union, I have a unique understanding of the needs that we have as a community. We have low to moderate income housing issues. We have a community that is growing, that is trying to retain its hometown feel. And I bring a unique perspective in that as a military veteran, I've lived all over the country and I have lived in some very big cities. So I can see how my perspective in being in a big city but growing up in a small town can bring a different perspective to the Planning Commission. So that is why I want to be on the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll all vote. Again, rank your candidates, or the candidates, 1 through 5. And then I guess five's the highest? So then, wait a second.
All right, hold on.
So in other words, one person gets a 5 vote, one person gets a 4, one person gets a 3, then a 2, and then a 1. Not really.
And the lowest tally person
Goes-
is gonna be the one
Who gets the
year
5, the
term.
1 year term?
I just don't know how the English teacher is the only one who gets math today, like the exponential timing.
Right.
It's what it says, 5 being the highest priority.
Hey, relax.
This is how they do it in Maine, isn't it? Don't they use ranked voting?
A lot of places are moving toward.
Don't they? Then you should know this.
We do this in metric.
Because you don't get to vote in Maine yet. Huh? Bye. Well, we'll take a short break while the votes are tallied, and then Kelly will announce the results. 5 minutes, please.
Okay. Thank you.
I like the end.
Where's, all right, we'll wait for Ellen.
Should we tell them that they all made it first? You can relax.
Okay, so the voting is complete. So I will ask for a motion to approve for a 4-year term Donald Bosch, for a 4-year term Amy Mae Gekas? Gekas, for a 4-year term Riley Parker, for a 4-year term Leora Rusin, for a 1-year term Penny Prinster.
So moved.
Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Harbaugh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner?
Yes.
Trustee Somerville?
Yes.
Trustee Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor Mickelai?
Yes.
Trustee Maxwell?
Yes.
Trustee Chase?
Yes.
Mayor, that motion carries.
And just a note for when you put this into the record on the packet, it says 3-year term. We might need to edit
Yeah.
that before we
Oh,
put it.
did I say four? That's, yeah. No, I did, because that's what you wrote up there.
No,
I-
you
I-
said 4
I
years, it
said
says
4-year,
3-year
but
here.
That's what,
Three.
three.
It's three.
Do we need to readjust that, Kelly? And redo the motion? Okay, we're gonna withdraw that motion and vote, if that is all right with the board. So we'll do this again. I will ask for a motion to approve for a 3-year term Donald Bosch, for a 3-year term Amy Mae Gekas, at least I got it right this time, for a 3-year term Riley Parker, for a 3-year term Leora Rusin, for a 1-year term Penny Prinster.
So moved.
Second.
Kelly, please call the roll.
Trustee Harbaugh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner?
Yes.
Trustee Somerville?
Yes.
Trustee Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor Mickelai?
Yes.
Trustee Maxwell?
Yes.
Trustee Chase?
Yes.
Mayor, that motion carries.
Next
Thank-
item,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Mayor.
guys. Thank
you.
you all for all of the hours.
Congratulations.
Endless hours. And thank you for volunteering. Yes, thank you.
Next item on the agenda.
on.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if you can give me 30 seconds, I'd like to unveil the logo for our comprehensive plan.
What?
Yeah.
It's not a picture of me?
Town of Palisade game plan. Game on. So we are going to move forward with marketing and surveys and all of the stuff that's necessary to get the input for our comprehensive plan, starting with the first meeting of the Planning Commission and the newly appointed members next week.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, the next item on the agenda, reestablishing town management of Palisade Fire Department. The Board of Trustees will consider continuing with the creation of the Fire Authority while reestablishing town management of the Palisade Fire Department. We'll begin with staff presentation. Janet?
So, as you're aware, the town of Palisade is very committed to having emergency services, which include both firefighting and ambulance services to our community, and we also take care of Palisade Rural Fire. And if you aren't aware, emergency services is becoming more and more competitive. Fewer people are entering the profession. Grand Junction did pass a tax increase, and they are building a new fire station rapidly every year. We have many of our staff who come here for training. They're volunteers, and volunteers are a paid position here, but not a lot of money. We also do training that's paid. But these people do get the training and experience here, and then they are getting jobs in Grand Junction. This is happening with a lot of different fire services. Fewer and fewer people have their paramedic license, and presently we are down 4 part-time positions out of 6, and we're down 7 of our volunteer positions. You will see a difference in our scheduling right now. I've been meeting with staff. January we had most of our positions full with the 4 people they want. And when I say 4 people, we have 3 lieutenants who split 4 days a week and they're on. Then you have a volunteer, you have someone who's a probation officer. These are the ones they're training. So they're not really, they can be on a call, but we really want 4 people. So we have a volunteer, a lieutenant, and a part-time person. Right now, when you get to June, I didn't know you were pulling that up, but he's showing it. We're missing people there. We also have a lieutenant who has applied to Grand Junction, so we will lose one of our full-time positions. We have 3 full-time positions. So right now we're losing staff, and we're starting to become unable to staff our fire department at the level that has been deemed safe and adequate. There has been a lot of changes. We do have an MOU shared with Clifton Fire. There have been changes in leadership over there. So it is recommended, is given the board in the packet 3 options with the fire department. It is recommended that we reestablish our fire chief with Palisade so that we can get these jobs posted. We've had our jobs vacant for over a month now. They haven't even been posted, so it will help us get these positions posted, filled, try to get our program so we have staff, especially during the busy summer months. So that is why we're here tonight, is to reestablish town management of the fire department.
Questions from the board?
Can we put the options up, please? It's page 81. Does staff have a recommendation between options 2 and 3?
We are moving forward with the fire authority. I do think that's a direction of the board to keep working on it. We have been involved for 14 months. It is a slow process right now. The latest is there was a name that was voted on, which is River's Edge Fire Authority, but this is a very long process because we still have to do the accounting. It would be to hire our own fire chief, and if the board likes to keep moving forward with the fire authority, that would include Clifton, Palisade Rural Fire, and we are speaking with the fire protection at East Orchard Mesa. They're just not at the table yet.
Do you mind if I start this off?
Go.
Yes.
Well, did you get the question answered? So
I guess it would be number 2.
Okay.
Okay.
My feeling on this is between 2 and 3. You know, as a person who was a part of this process from the beginning, and I kind of stepped away and Bill took my position, but my participation in this and my support of this was based heavily on the idea that that the steering committee itself was a partnership, and that we were still in a lot of ways autonomous for our own success and failures, and that we were responsible. And with the leadership change that was brought down through this, I felt blindsided by it. I did not feel like we were informed. I didn't feel like we had any say in it, and it just made me realize that we're kind of just flying in the wind with this steering committee as it pertains to us. We have no say in who's going to be our fire chief. That to me is concerning. I don't believe it was done necessarily in good faith, and it's hard for me to go forward with the steering committee as it is unless we have different circumstances and a different MOU. So I'm torn between 2 and 3. 3 would be with the idea that if we did enter into the MOU again, it would be under distinctly different terms, where we would be privy to executive session to be able to find out information on personnel. The other one being that any decisions made on a fire chief over the entire fire authority would be made by the steering committee and not just by one of the boards that was represented. I think another thing that we need to take into consideration that wasn't in the packet is we need to get the feeling of Palisade Rural Fire and where they stand on this, and I'm just throwing that out there.
Tia.
I'm a bit confused between the difference between 2 and 3, because isn't 2 the employment of the fire chief and deputy fire chief? I mean, isn't that essential to the MOU? So if we're walking away from that, aren't we walking away from the MOU?
No.
The MOU does discuss the steering committee, so you'd still have a steering committee moving forward with the
I see. Okay, all right.
fire authority, and then we'd have to amend the MOU between us and Clifton.
So in that case, I agree with Jamie. I think that we need, well, I'm not sure. We need to have decision-making authority along with Clifton and the other partners regarding the leadership and the governance. We have a lot of assets, and we also have a constituency that we're responsible for taking care of. And I really feel that we need the structure of that steering committee to be one that allows us to have that share in the governance accordingly.
Okay.
I would lean towards option 3 because looking at the schedule going into June versus where we were in May, I just feel like we need to end this MOU entirely, and I feel like we need to get back to some roots and really build up our fire station and start taking care of our constituents and making sure that we're doing our best to make sure that Palisade can respond to an emergency, and that we have the staff to do so before we are worrying about any sort of rural fire protection district. I think we need to keep our own house before we're worried about going into someone else's.
Were you gonna say something?
No, I'm just thinking still.
The advantage to number 2 is it still allows us to basically continue with the discussions towards a fire authority while actually putting our house in order with our own fire chief. So it doesn't necessarily end that effort. We would be able to continue work on that. However, obviously, we have to find out from the other 2 entities involved whether they wish to continue or not. So, I mean, it isn't just a matter of our ending it, it is also a matter of whether or not any of the other 2 entities decide to withdraw from the process as well. But if we did continue with the MOU strictly through the steering committee, or keeping that part of it, we would actually still be able to continue working towards a fire authority, hiring a fire chief, getting our house in order in terms of what's going to be happening this summer. But again, like I said, we would be able to continue working towards a fire authority. So that is the advantage of number 2.
I'm still confused then. Are we then modifying the MOU?
The MOU is actually 2 parts. The first part, basically, I'll say, is for the contracting for administrative services of a fire chief and deputy fire chief from Clifton Fire Protection District.
Okay.
Now, that part of the MOU states that if we wish to end those services,
Okay.
we do so with written notice, and we no longer pay the $5,000 a month.
Okay.
The other part of the MOU basically states or puts together this steering committee to look and work towards a fire authority. It does not, by negating one, does not necessarily negate both.
Okay.
So there is an advantage to number 2.
Okay, may I ask a question? If we hire our own fire chief, okay, and is there a chance that the fire commission or fire authority would then, a year down the road, overturn his position at Palisade?
It's not an overturned position. The fire authority, the document has to be created, so they're creating a draft IGA. So that document would state how the fire authority would hire the fire chief. It has nothing to do with the town of Palisade fire chief or Clifton fire chief, because we would become one entity. So that steering committee then would decide who is the fire chief, who they hire. So either Clifton's fire chief could apply for the job, Grand Junction's fire chief could apply for the job, Palisade's fire chief could apply for the job, and then we would move into an authority.
So I think that's a yes. Ultimately, that could result in a change of employment for that person in some way, shape, or
So
form.
that person, if whoever were to take our fire chief position, would have to do so with the understanding that a year from now.
It's almost an interim position.
It is almost, well, it is.
Or 2
yeah,
years.
that's close to it.
Or 3.
So what are we giving up then by going with
2 instead of
3
3.
versus 2? I mean, if
If
we
we-
just walk away from
Then
the
basically,
fire
we end the
authority stuff
process of
completely.
trying to create the fire authority. And if we end the process of creating the fire authority, the ultimate goal is to try to move towards a fire district. But we can't we gotta do that in steps. The MOU is the first step, the fire authority with the IGA is the second step. We then go to the voters to try to create a cohesive, all-encompassing fire district for this end of the valley with as many entities as we can. And the reason we do that is so that we basically have a cohesive, well-organized fire department that can help with all of the safety and issues, our EMS issues for Clifton to Cameo.
And to that point, at the end of that, with that fire district, you'd have an elected board. They would take over
And-
authority of the whole thing.
Yeah,
We would
we'd
no
have a
longer
vote.
be in the fire business, and they would hire a chief, they would oversee the whole thing, and they would have a mill levy.
How deep are we in this process?
Not as deep as we thought we were, apparently.
You've created a name, and
That's what
that's
I'm
it.
saying, like, what are we
Well-
really giving up by choosing option 2 over option 3? I mean, how far into this process are we? How much work has been done?
My opinion is, based on the work that we got done and the conversations that were had, if we went with 3, I don't think it would take as long to get to where we are now if we started this over again,
We've learned
as
lessons.
it did the first time. Would you agree with that?
Well, just a
No?
background information, Nicole. The fire authority and fire district's been discussed for over 20 years, and we actually have copies of planning documents that DOLA has done, other fire departments have done, Palisade has done, that a fire district should really be created. Since I've been hired, we have had multiple meetings with various fire chiefs, fire departments. So there has been years of work. As far as the actual IGA draft document, yeah, that's not as far as long as we like. It's gonna take a long time to get it in place. But I think with all those meetings and people coming and at least talking about it, there has been at least participation that hasn't occurred.
Between whom? Between us and Clifton and whom else?
Palisade Rural.
Central, Palisade Rural has been at the table, Land End has been at the table, East Orchard Mesa has come and
Okay,
talked, so.
let's not confuse this issue. Let us keep it to the 3 entities we have now. That is Palisade Rural, Clifton, and Palisade, town of Palisade. Let's not worry about these other 2 entities, they are not a part of the discussion.
So
What we do
Palisade-
have is, we have put work into this. It has taken us a bit of work to just get to the steering committee structure and its authority. We have put together budget documentation that needs to go into this IGA document. Again, there's been other elements that have been worked on for close to 14 months now. So there has been quite a bit of work towards this. So if this is kind of one of those things of throwing the baby out with the bath, I think if we completely throw out the MOU at this point, I think we're starting almost back from square one. Whereas if we were to actually continue and go with number 2, we would actually at least be able to move forward in some capacity and keep trying to work towards a fire authority.
I think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I'm imagining an option 2.5,
Which would be what?
which would be to stay with the MOU, but we renegotiate the MOU and have better terms of it to where this doesn't happen again.
I actually, the best, well, no, because we don't need to,
No.
because the only part of the MOU that is going to be active is the steering committee
Okay.
portion of it. Anything that occurs later on, or anything that would occur in terms of the hiring process, the personnel process, the personnel oversight, will be part of the IGA.
Okay.
It must be part of that.
Okay.
We don't need to have it as part of the MOU at this point, because we're not gonna have a personnel aspect of the MOU anymore, because we're no longer gonna be contracting services for a fire chief.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, though.
So
is-
we don't even have to worry about that
Okay.
personnel issue anymore. We can keep working forward towards the IGA, which will include all of those elements of personnel decision-making.
So when we went with the MOU with having the essentially subcontracted staff, we were kind of going in a direction where we thought the IGA might go, but the kind of the problem with it is that we didn't have any decision-making authority on who filled that position. And so we kind of put ourselves in that.
Well, I think what it was, to be perfectly honest or frank, is I think we were naive. We did not think there was going to be a necessity
issue.
for this.
We were satisfied with the status quo. We loved the
were
direction that it was
satisfied with
under.
where things were, and I think for us, we never envisioned that we would need to be part of any personnel decisions, and therefore, we just never thought to put them into the MOU. It was naive and a bad oversight on our part, and I admit it. We should have had that from the beginning. We didn't do it. There it is.
So is this the recommendation of staff, is to basically eliminate the staffing piece of this MOU and then continuing to move
then
forward
leave
with
the
the.
IGA in
Which is
place.
number 2.
Which is
yes,
number
No,
yeah,
the
number
MOU
2.
in place as far as moving towards an
Towards
IGA.
that, yes.
Yeah, so it's
What's
option
under-
number 2.
And that's the recommendation of staff.
Yeah,
And then
we-
towards
Can
the
I ask a
IGA, we would,
question?
oh, go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
After 14 months, this committee's come up with a name, and that's, there's some other work been done, I understand, but was there a stumbling point? Was there a stopping point? Why isn't this closer to being in place?
I think one of the things that did occur that, as we got into the latter part of 2021, the steering committee had got to a point where we knew we needed to have a draft version of this IGA. This IGA is what creates the authority. So at that point, we, as a steering committee, directed council. In this case, we were working with Clifton Fire Department's lawyer, Dino, and we asked Dino and his associates to start putting together this. And so they were working on this over the course of several months. And so we had been kind of out of communication until I think about in March, and then that's when we came back and started meeting again. So there was a bit of time there where we weren't working as a steering committee, but that was because we were waiting on the IGA to get into a form that we could then come back in and insert some of the numbers that involved budget and personnel decisions. So we have gotten to that point. So now we're actually at the point of putting in these budget numbers, these personnel numbers, and of course, we're gonna need to come in and rework some of the way personnel decisions are made.
And that would go towards the IGA,
And that's
correct?
gonna be in the IGA. So we're at that point with this IGA.
And so Stan, and I also wouldn't call
That'd be
it,
wasting a lot of time and
I wouldn't
we have-
call it a waste of time and effort.
Could throw it away, I mean.
So
Oh,
again,
yeah, I see what
but
you
there's things that were done that weren't necessarily directly related to that project that I would call, it was progress in the sense that we've made a lot of progress as a department. Chief Balky came in and really just whipped us into shape. And that, if that's all we got out of this, it was incredible because just training, oversight, just great leadership that was wonderful for us. And so there was that too. And that took time and then a lot of inventory, a lot of replacement of, what would you call it, outdated equipment, just that kind of stuff. All that took a lot of time to just take inventory and stock of what we had and to fix it. So we're in a lot better shape right now than we were a year ago.
So that was being done.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was
Oh,
other
yeah.
elements
Okay.
being
No,
completed.
So in my opinion, yeah, it'd be a real waste to end the
Yeah.
MOU completely and throw it all away and start over.
But we're smarter
Maybe
now
we
and
could- Bill?
Well, the inside, I mean, even if you had before and after pictures on this building on what was done was incredible.
yeah,
And that, I mean, you can't put a price on that.
no.
So who's on the steering committee, and do we have any control over that?
The way,
terms
and
of
that's
our
again, that's part of
No.
the MOU, basically creates the structure of the steering committee. So we have 2 appointees from Town of Palisade, 2 appointees from the Clifton Rural Protection District, Fire Protection District, 1 appointee from Palisade Rural Fire Protection District. So it's a 5-member voting
Steering committee.
steering committee. And that was also part of this process within this 14 months of how do we put together the steering committee, how do we set it up so that it seems equitable to everybody involved, and, and that was also part of that 14-month process, is just even getting the steering committee together in a way.
So do we, so the attorney that's being used to do the IGA is Clifton's attorney, but they report and are paid for through the steering committee, is that?
Yes.
Yes, because I think that's really important that we have representation, the town of Palisade,
Yeah.
so if the steering committee is the one that's in charge of that and there's a budget number, I don't know how are we paying for
Does
that?
the steering committee choose the attorney?
I've seen
The
some-
steering committee decided to go with Dino, and the reason we did that was because he is very well versed in creating these kind of authorities and working towards creating
He's
fire
done,
protection
like,
districts. He's
parachute.
done it on
Yep,
several
yep.
occasions.
But the steering committee pays for it, and then
The
the
town
steering
of
committee.
Palisade contributes,
To it. Mhm.
Palisade Rural
Okay.
contribute, well, and then Clifton Fire
So we
Protection.
feel we're represented, fine, I'm just
Yeah,
sorry
it's
about
not,
that.
that's
I think one of the problems too is, correct me if I'm wrong, but Janet didn't have access to him.
That's, we're working on correcting that. I guess is the best. Robert has assured me, Robert is the head of the Clifton Fire Protection District. He has assured me that that will be rectified, that Dino will contact Janet and start working with her and Joe White, now the interim fire chief for Clifton, to try to get these numbers in that are gonna be required to create this IGA. Now,
So-
again, I'm gonna say something. What ends up happening is if at some point now, Palisade Rural decides that they wanna pull out of this, or Clifton decides they wanna pull out of it, then
We're
again, the situation almost gets decided on its own in that matter too. So, for us to keep moving forward with this, I think is the best bet. And then we will try to take care of some of these issues that have been brought up over the last month and a half, and try to get this thing moving along the way it should. The best thing that we can do for people of this end of the valley is to create a fire protection district.
Yeah.
One of the issues that we have, and this is part of the discussions, and I'm not gonna try to belabor this or go into too much detail. One of the issues that has occurred or has been happening over the last several years with these fire protection districts, you can point to them, Palisade Rural or Land's End or East Orchard Mesa, is they all have different mill levies, so they all have different financial, resources, and some, Palisade Rural doesn't even have a fire department. East Orchard Mesa has primarily volunteer and a fire chief. One of the things that occurs with that kind of a situation, if somebody cannot in East Orchard Mesa respond to a call, then it has to fall to one of the other entities, either Clifton or Palisade usually, what's referred to as mutual aid, right? So what happens is our resources get used up in East Orchard Mesa or Land's End or something along those lines through this mutual aid situation, which you cannot deny. You cannot say, no, I'm not gonna go to
Right,
East Orchard
legally you
Mesa.
can't.
So we end up doing that, and the problem is it's not an equitable situation for certain entities, and it becomes something where it gets kind of almost, I hate to use the word abuse, because it almost seems a little strong, but there is almost a situation where it gets kind of maybe overutilized in some districts with this mutual aid situation. By having a cohesive fire protection district for this end of the valley, mutual aid no longer becomes an issue because it's one fire department with one budget, one fire chief. It also creates coordination for everybody involved. We have seen in the past where when fire departments try to work together, there's been coordination problems, leadership issues. And that has endangered lives, not only for citizens, but the firefighters themselves.
And right now, we have our citizenry in danger because we're down a huge percentage in personnel, and you have no leadership that's being used. So
And we couldn't foresee that and anticipate
No,
that.
I get that.
And,
I
yeah.
absolutely understand that. So if I want to make a motion to go with option number 2, how do I do it?
Just say it, I move to, and then read it off.
All right, I'm giving direction, or I'm making a motion?
We're making a motion that will then give staff direction.
Okay, then.
Now, I want to be clear about something else. I think we need to understand that this fire chief is basically answerable to Janet, our town manager, so that hiring process will be taking place with Janet.
Yes.
All right?
So it's gonna be another department like the police department?
Which we've had.
Right, which we had, we've had it before, okay, fine. So I make a motion that we give Janet direction to reestablish town management of its fire department, and that we end the employment of a fire chief and deputy fire chief with the Clifton Fire Protection District, hire our own fire chief for the Palisade Fire Department, and continue efforts to create a fire authority with Clifton Fire Protection District and Palisade Rural Fire Protection District.
Second.
Third.
You don't need to do that. Yeah, Thea?
What's the budget impact anticipated?
Because we had a fire chief before, we do have the money, and then since we are paying Clifton $60,000 a year, it will impact it by $30,000.
So this will increase our budget by 30,000? We'll have to.
But we probably have to do a budget amendment since we didn't have it in this budget, but previously, that position existed.
I understand.
So we.
balance.
But we'll probably have to come up with another 30,000 that's not been budgeted yet.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and I should say less than that because it's May.
Okay. Equivalent of that.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other comments or questions?
No.
Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Turner,
Yes.
Trustee Somerville,
Yes.
Trustee Carlson,
Yes.
Mayor Mickelai,
Yes.
Trustee Maxwell,
Yes.
Trustee Chase,
Yes.
Trustee Harbaugh.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion carries.
Next item on the agenda. Sorry, let me get back into here. Chip and seal of Palisade Streets in partnership with Mesa County. The Board of Trustees will consider directing the town manager to enter into a partnership with Mesa County to chip and seal town roads and approve the expenditures associated with the project. We'll begin with staff presentation. Is this you, Matt?
This is Matt.
Thank you, Mayor and the board. Yes, partnership with Mesa County happens about every 3 years to put chip seal on our streets. They provide manpower and equipment. We assist with different odd jobs of protecting valve boxes, sewer manholes, those types of things. They come through, lay it down with their equipment, as I said, and then we come through with our equipment and clean up the chips. Assuming construction continues efficiently, it'll be a Thursday, Monday, Tuesday. The county only works 4 days a week. The budget is there in front of you. I believe it was 46,000 or 48,000. I'm sorry, 44,000. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Can you go back to the map? The question that came to my mind was, we're chipping and sealing Iowa.
You just,
It's the same thing.
And we just
paved it.
finished that thing. It's only been, what, 3 years, 4 years?
Right, yeah, that's standard practice for new asphalt. You lay it down, the volatiles come out of it, you get super fine cracks in it, you come through 3 years later and you put another hard surface over the top of it, and it extends the longevity of the road.
Okay.
So that is standard practice.
The volatiles. All right, thanks. I just was curious about that because I wondered why with a street that's only 4 years old. All right.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have done Main Street 3 years earlier, but it didn't get done. So it was done in 19. I'm not sure when you guys got it paved and updated, but kind of missed that window on that one. But yeah,
What does a volatile look like?
a volatile. It's a vapor that comes out of the asphalt.
Hey, Jamie, it's 8:30. Please don't take us into
described
the
it well.
weeds. Don't
It's
take
like
us
a
into the
little
weeds.
tiny atomic explosion.
I can throw all kinds of science at you, Jamie.
Is there any other questions for, yeah, is there any other questions for staff?
Is this in the budget?
Yes, it's in our lineup. Would come out of the streets budget, out of the general fund.
I move to approve the chip and seal of Town and Palisade Streets in
Wait.
partnership with Mesa County.
I'll second that one.
He asked if there's no questions and nobody said yes.
Okay,
so
fine.
It's 8:30.
Did you
Do
have
you
a question?
Well, I don't think the time should dictate how we vote, first of all, and second of all, yes, I had a question.
I'm not talking about the time in terms of our discussion about the chip and seal. I'm talking about the time of him going off on a wild
I
tale
had a
with
question.
volatile thing.
So-
So if you have a question, Nicole, please feel free to ask it.
How were these routes chosen? Just because they were done 3 years previously, or?
The Iowa Street, yes, it was that's a logical place to start with industry standards of 3 years. The other ones were chosen because of trying to get the longevity out of that south loop we use for our festivals and things like that, and trying to get the longevity out of those.
Okay.
Those streets, I don't know how to word this great, they're not in poor shape, so we're trying to extend the life of them, whereas you look at some of the other streets, they're beyond saving with the chip seal.
Lincoln is sinking.
These ones,
That was my question, I guess, because we have other roads that are in
much worse
much
shape.
worse repair, or
But-
shape, but
We don't want to spend our money on those. We need to just patch them and keep them going until we get the
until we can
funding.
do a complete resurface.
Exactly, and put this, not just the surface, but maybe some of the stuff underneath the surface.
Okay, that
Okay.
clears that up, thank you.
Makes that so much more exciting.
Vomit.
There's no other
Bauer has
questions?
vomit.
Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Bauer has a hole.
Trustee Somerville,
Yes.
trustee Carlson,
Yes.
Mayor Mickelai,
Yes.
trustee Maxwell,
Yes.
trustee Chase,
Yes.
trustee Harbaugh,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is open discussion. This is a chance for the Board of Trustees to voice concerns, opportunities, or other important topics not on the agenda. Each trustee will be held to a limit of 3 minutes apiece to speak. And if you don't mind, I'm going to start so that we can actually address the issue of the request for a letter supporting the, I can't remember the name with the trolley. Palisade.
And
Okay.
And Barbier.
Okay.
I think just the expansion of touring, what would you call your industry?
Yeah, tour industry.
Yeah.
Tour industry?
Just to make sure we're clear on this, Janet, in this process that occurs, this is actually, we don't approve this. This is done at a state level. And so what's happening is, because some businesses are saying no at this state level, there's like a blackball veto power on that?
Yes, and there is, and so they have to go to court and prove that they're not in competition like with the limo service, and there's enough business for them. And I know Theo knows a
I have
lot
a
too.
lot of
Yeah,
questions
I
about
did
this.
some research on this in grad school, so maybe I can help a little. I know, odd.
You can remember that far
Odd.
back?
Yeah, a little. There's a couple of things, okay? So.
Sorry, that was a softball.
It's, the Public Utilities Commission requires that you have to, because it's a utility, it's a regulated monopoly essentially, and that you have to prove that there's inadequate service, and I forget the exact terminology for it, but that it's not being sufficiently served now. And so they then solicit the opinion of the existing carriers, and it's the burden of proof on the people that are applying, as I understand it. And this is like meant for like taxi service, right? Because of the fact that with taxi service, it's really hard to make the numbers go.
Sure.
I guess my opinion is that this doesn't seem like taxi service, it seems more like tourism services, which don't seem the same to me. And
But it's still regulated through this PUC.
that's correct, and so I think what we're being asked for is to say that we do think that there would be a benefit to having more tour operators, and this is not, the court is a PUC court.
Okay.
It's, yeah.
I want to be clear, because what we're asking here is not to vote on whether to approve the letter. We are just giving direction to staff, if we do so, to have staff write a letter supporting their application or licensing process, at which point then in 2 weeks, we would vote to approve the letter one way or another. So just
No,
so
I
we-
think it's more of give us direction for a letter of support for the Hummels signed by the mayor, and they need it by Friday.
Yeah, yes or no?
Yeah,
Not
so
just-
they-
not
that's
just
what
the
I
Hummels.
just said.
Oh, I thought you said you wanted to come back and vote on it.
Don't we have to, we don't need to vote?
No, if you just give us direction to write a letter of support for the Hummels to
Not
have
just
with
the
their
Hummels.
the case,
Barbier?
and Barbe.
Essentially, it's a category.
It
It's
is,
like,
So-
yeah.
it's not, we consider this tour operators that are helping out our tourism industry, and we see that is a need, and that could be something that should be based on competition. It's not the same as
Yeah.
a taxi service.
So it's really just giving authorization to the mayor to sign a letter of support for the Hummel service and Barber's
Okay.
tour service.
Bill?
I have a question. Is the horse-drawn carriages do they have to have a PUC?
No.
They're already authorized under limousine, I would imagine, and they're probably just operating under their existing, no?
They're not regulated.
Neither is no motor.
Or the bicycles.
Nor is the pedicab?
So is this just motorized vehicles?
It's just motorized, oh, okay. Well,
So, go ahead. I'll go after you.
No, go ahead.
So, I mean, call me an old-fashioned capitalist, but short of an economic study showing saturation, I think that a claim of that should have to be backed up by an economic study showing market factors and consumer behavior, and I've seen nothing into that. So I'm fully in support of competition in that regard, of opening that up and making that a thing. So I support the letter.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if I can suggest this or not, if this is out of the realm. The TAB board meets on Thursday morning. TAB is the Tourism Advisory Board for Palisade. Meets here on Thursday morning from 9 to 11. Would it be appropriate for them to come before the TAB board and have a letter from TAB as well, or?
That's entirely up to them and TAB.
Couldn't hurt.
We will be there.
I will be there as well.
Then that's up to the TAB board to decide that.
We decide for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I
Yeah.
didn't want,
I don't know
I
that
didn't
TAB
want
has
there
the
to be.
authority to do that.
That's.
Why not?
Because they
Everybody can
serve
write a
Well,
letter.
they serve
They
us.
serve us. They're an advisory board to us.
But is it okay if,
Janet, we have a question about the TAB board. Is it all right for the TAB board to write a letter of support?
Yes, because they can give authorization to Julianne as the chairman to sign it for the tab board.
Well, and theoretically, they could disagree with us, I suppose.
I don't believe that that's gonna happen.
Okay, so with that in mind, with that, do we have any other questions on this subject? And can we give direction to staff to write a letter of support for Palisade Trolley?
Is there a public comment?
No,
What was Barbie's?
What do you mean, no?
Just,
no. This is board discussion. There is no public comment in this, Dave. Sorry.
Well, frankly, you don't know the rules, so.
Actually, I kinda do, Dave.
You don't know the PUC rules, and the stuff that they're asking for in their application has higher implications of just Palisade. It has all of Mason County, which is not under your jurisdiction.
We're not, but again, I'm not gonna get into a discussion with this. This is not, there's not an open discussion between us and the audience at this time, so we'll end that. I'm gonna ask, does the board wish to give direction to staff to write a letter of support for Palisade Trolley? I see one thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up.
Did you have a
That,
question?
I'm just indifferent.
okay?
I love the
Opposed?
trolley.
Huh?
Yeah, what about a letter of support for John Barbier?
What is he?
Do we have to do them separately?
Is he separate? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
You specified the trolley.
Poor John.
Yes, he's doing the same thing we're doing.
So
He's
two
going
letters.
in front of the PUC.
So,
Huh?
but for what? For a
I thought he was
trolley?
in,
No,
No,
he
it was
has
separate.
an SUV that he wants to do wine tours with.
And
It's
you guys are doing the trolley, now I'm really confused.
We're not part of him, he came in front of
It's
the board
two
to ask
entities
his
with the
own
same
letter.
issue.
We're just representing the Palisade.
So he's doing wine tours, you're doing wine tours also in the trolley?
We'd like to,
But are
yes,
you
that's
doing
one of the
are you-
things we'd like to do with it. With a PUC authority, we can do, like bachelorette parties, weddings, light tours, different things, because of the seating capacity that we have in ours. But predominantly, we're Palisade Trolley, we'd love to do wine tours here in the valley too.
So it's two entities, so we need to approve two letters.
Wait a minute.
hold on.
Goodness gracious.
Okay, that, I thought that, well,
No, they were
I
separate.
thought they were the same.
they are.
John was separate.
Essentially, what we're doing is, in my mind, is we are saying yes to competition.
Yes.
In the tour, conducting tours in Palisade.
In
We're
Palisade,
not,
but are
it
you
doesn't,
just in
it's not
Palisade, or
just,
you
we're
on
not,
Grand
well,
Junction as
okay,
well?
can I finish
Oh,
my
I'm
thought?
so
Yes, that's
sorry.
right. I think that our letter needs to be narrow, because we're just saying, we're the town board, Palisade, Colorado, and we feel that it's important to have, competition with respect to tour operators, and that's what we support. It doesn't matter if it's Barbier, or if it's the trolley company, or whatever else, we're saying that we feel that having competition in tour operators is fine. We're not saying anything about Mason County or anything else, I mean, and so that's why I think it's not like, I don't know that we wanna say we support their application, cause we haven't inspected their application.
Right.
And that's not, we support competition in tour operators in order to be able to, provide the best.
To provide
yeah.
service
So
in
basically,
Palisade.
one letter that basically works for both entities.
I agree
Yes.
with that.
So, write it, is that all right with the board?
As
To
long
write
as
it in that
it's speci-
manner?
Yes, could you please specify
to operate in Palisade?
Yeah, tour operators.
Yeah,
Because
Palisade
that's-
Well-
reception.
It's all we have authority,
Well,
you know.
No.
I mean, we,
Right.
If,
We
if
don't
for
have-
whatever reason this was a bigger issue and it was a county matter and a city matter, we would be voicing our opinion on our little market.
right.
And
So
so
I think
then
we
they
need
could
to do
take
the
that into
same
don't have to
thing.
consideration.
specify it.
All right. You understand what you're
Also,
writing?
1.1
It's a letter
square
of
miles.
support.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I mean,
Who else wants to have anything to discuss? That's mine, now that we've taken care of that one.
I thought you supposed to be held to 3 minutes.
Well, you guys took up my time, so there you
Yeah,
go.
well,
He's always right.
you took up all of our time too.
I did not.
Yes,
Do
you
you
did.
have anything?
No.
Stan? Bill? Nicole?
Surprisingly, no, I've got nothing. This is usually where I shine, but no, I really don't have
Let's
anything.
do some committee.
I wanted to mention real quick that I forgot to mention last time. I went to all 4 days of the Palisade Bluegrass Bash, and it was really fun, and I thought, from my perspective, well done, well done. Just want to congratulate the people involved in running that.
I do have one on a little more of a somber note. I want to recognize the life of Thelma Hayes, lifelong Palisadian, just a historic figure, human monument. We lost her, and that's unfortunate.
Lost her husband just a few months ago as well.
Yeah.
So, our condolences to Jack Hayes and his family.
Yes.
Okay, with that in mind, we'll now move on to committee reports. Chamber?
Oh, yeah. Good news. So, you know, it was looking not so great, but things are in a better position than they appeared on the initial optics. I've got like notes all over the place here. So the big news is, even though the previous executive director resigned, it was a good faith, good terms resignation. It was not a reaction or a response to anything that was going on with the chamber. They already have an interim, and I love saying her name. It's Natalie Shevelbein, who is the assistant director, and she will be the interim for a short period of time until Jessica Burford, that's the big announcement, will take over as the full-time director. She's prepared, she's qualified. Everybody, including the previous director, is excited about that. There's going to be a smooth transition where they work together. The other great news is some of the financials that looked bleak. They've contracted through JFS, an accounting firm, who's been looking at their books, and they're realizing that a lot of the things that looked bad would be redundant expenses. And so they may be paying it once, but it could be showing up 2 or 3 times on the books. And so that has really caused a sigh of relief that they're coming around, they're figuring out who's really a member, who's not, who's alive and who's not, all these things, and they're really just paring it down. The JFS thing has been a godsend. Let me see if there's anything else on here. Talked about, there is a vacant board position that they're working on filling. Announcements, 4th of July will be on July 2nd. There's a picnic. Yeah, we had all kinds of jokes. Well, there's 2 days before the 4th. It's called the 2nd. And that's
Yeah.
when they're gonna do the parade and all the fun. And there'll be a picnic following with food. The next business after hours is May 18th at Base Camp. After that, it'll be June 15th at Jet Boat. July 26th is gonna be a mega mixer with the Grand Junction Chamber. To the questions that were asked, there is no interest in partnering with Harkey's Launch. And as far as adventure guides to Tab, they have yet to get the new ones. They should be here soon, but they will send over some old ones in the meantime.
We have, well, just so you know.
Actually,
Thank you for
the
asking.
Declaration of Independence was signed on July 2nd.
And there's that too, see? We're
It was
just,
just read
How
to the
can you have a
public on
July
July.
4th celebration on not July?
you just do it 2 days earlier.
Okay.
So are there any questions that you would like me to take back to Tab?
The
Yeah.
chamber.
Or sorry, to Chamber?
Yes, could you please send out email blasts for the business after hours?
Yes.
And I do think that the communication thing is another one of those things that's gonna get solved.
No, I get it.
No, but
And
But at the very least, send one email to town and let Janet.
We
send
just have
over
one
to us.
point of information about the July. So the chambers and the town both put on July 4th, and for the chambers, it's changed until July 2nd, is already causing staff issues that I really think we might need to meet with them before they change it, that maybe we do keep it on the 4th. Because there's holidays, you know, because we also put on July 2nd with the chambers. It's not just the chambers event all
Then I would
by
recommend,
themselves.
because one of the things, and I've already talked to Troy about it, they would like to sit down and talk about different things. I
Yeah.
think in the near future, that would be a good idea to just get together.
Can you like send him a note saying, can we talk about July 4th before they announce they're doing it on July 2nd? Because it might be difficult, yeah. Thank you.
One Riverfront?
We approved the nominations in the consent agenda, so thank you for that. That's all.
Okay. Tab.
Tab meets on Thursday, so I have nothing for now.
Grand Valley Rural Transit Commission will meet later this month, so I have nothing to report. Bill, CML, GAG&C.
Well, CML, there's a lot of bills for the last 2 weeks. The ones that affect us is, there's House Bill 22-1151, turf replacement programs. It looks like it's gonna get passed. There's gonna be $2 million put in that, people can ask for the money to replace irrigation grass with, low water use. The, another one that's gonna, let's see, what's create, okay. Senate Bill 230, that was the one, a collective bargaining agreement. What's been changed on that, the amendment on that was they deleted, it's just for counties, and they deleted the municipalities on that. So that's a big deal. The, CHAFA is gonna get extended for their credit program for low-income housing and affordable housing. The, that doesn't affect us. The one that they're still working on is House Bill 1362, where the state would mandate local governments to adopt energy building codes. And CML is very much against that, and they're still working on that to hopefully that won't pass. So those are the bills that I've went through. I've listened to all their, about 3 hours worth the past 2 weeks. Those are the ones that affect us. And AG&C is 25th.
And I also, I'm sorry, I'm coming back. Nicole and I are not going to be here for the next meeting because we're gonna be up at the broadband conference. We'll be there Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, coming back Wednesday. So we'll watch via
Via Zoom.
YouTube,
On YouTube.
which is what we did last year.
What date is that, Jen? Or,
I think we leave, it's the Monday is the 23rd.
oh, the 24th, the 24th.
Well, we're not gonna be here for the 24th.
Okay, yeah.
Because we're going up the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, coming back on the 25th. And you're gonna be at the
AG&C.
AG&C,
And there's,
so.
On the 24th?
No, you're gonna be on.
no, the 25th. And Corey Brindell from DOLA is going to give an update for District 10 broadband. And he's above Dana. And he's the one that actually okays the DOLA grants for
Where
broadband.
is that meeting gonna be?
That's
In
gonna-
Rangeley.
So you know
You're here
what?
though for the meeting on the 24th?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll get up and leave like
I just want
7 o'clock in the morning to
want to
get
make
there.
sure we're gonna have a quorum.
Right, that's why I brought it up, but would it be possible for us on the way back, or even if we leave the Wednesday, the 25th, if we leave our meeting early, to meet you in Rangeley?
Oh, that'd be a
Or
long
is that too
drive.
much of a pain in the ass?
That'd be a 4-hour drive.
Alright. Out of the way? Like
For
completely
you?
out of the way?
Way out of the way.
Oh, yeah. You'd have to drive to Rifle to Meeker to Rangeley.
Be like driving from Manhattan to Brooklyn.
Or drive through.
That's like nothing.
Okay. With that in mind, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
I was gonna
Get
make
it?
him-
4 hours?
I know, I know.